What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us on Tuesday night. This is episode 58 of Tuesday Night Titans. I am your host, JD from New York, as always, joined by my co-host, a very good friend on Tuesday nights, Mr. Jason Solomon, better known as the Solomonster. Brother, what is going on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm having a good night. I'm here with all of you guys. I got my drink here to my left. I got you guys here to my right. This is all we need. We got people filing in here, and thank you guys for making this show what it is every single week.
Complimentary drink check, man. What are you drinking?
Jack and Coke.
Okay.
I'm keeping it predictable. I know. I got to switch it up, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. It hits the spot.
A couple of Jack and Cokes are going to sound good on Friday night, man. You and I are going to be at the NYC Arena on Friday for our biggest show. Me personally, I think it's our biggest show of the year. High intensity. We got the AEW World Champion showing up, Swerve Strickland. That is if he survives blood and guts tomorrow night. I know.
I'm going to be crossing my fingers on that.
It's ridiculous, man. I don't know how he's going to feel, but listen, Red will take advantage of that any way he can. And Red is on this career resurgence in 2024. If you're not paying attention to the amazing Red, after what he did against Mike Santana, man, he is obviously, he's kicking it into another gear. So who knows what he's going to bring out when he gets into the ring with Swerve in that match that will main event High Intensity on Friday. I know you are the commissioner, sir. What are you looking forward to most? And why don't you run down the card briefly for our fine patrons here? Because I know everybody can watch it on Trilla TV Plus Friday night.
7 Eastern, Friday night. We're going to be live on Triller TV Plus. Well, you mentioned the main event. I'm looking forward to having Swerve back because this time he's bringing gold with him. He's got the AEW World Title. It's not on the line, but he'll be there. And he's bringing Prince Nana with him, who I'm sure is going to be swerving on his way, hopefully not to the building, but once he's in the building. So that's going to be an incredible main event. We've got Zilla Fatu. Also, everyone's talking about the bloodline. I think you give it a couple of years, we may see him, with his finger up in the air on TV. But he's coming to HOG for the first time on Friday night. He's going to be getting in the ring with Mike Santana. And I'm excited about this. We have, speaking of debuts, I'm sure many of you have heard the name Megan Bayne.
Oh, yeah.
And we are getting her in House of Glory for the first time this Friday, and she is going to be challenging the Ultraviolet for the HOG Women's title. I cannot wait for that. We got a lot more planned. Not all announced yet, but those are the key matches. And I'm looking forward to Megan Bayne. What about you?
Oh, yeah. I have actually brushed up on some of her stuff, and I'm quite impressed. I think she's got the whole package. Honestly, the visuals are great. The entrance is great. Ring attire is great. Connecticut native. Can't wait to see what she does, man. I'm predicting a new women's champion, honestly.
Don't tell Violet that you said that. He's not going to like that very much.
Oh, man. She could take it up with us on Friday, but that is happening Friday, guys. It's going to be a big show, our biggest show of the year. And then Jason and I obviously will be in Chicago for our Chicago debut. That is the week of All Outs in Chicago. So we will keep you posted on that. But Dijak is already announced for that show, and I'm very interested to see what he brings to the table. Big fan of Dijak, so he will be making his HOG debut in Chicago for us. So that, more news to come on that very, very soon. But we got a lot to get into, man. We got Blood and Guts tomorrow night. We're going to go over the absolutely rabid and embarrassing tribalism that was. I mean, I had people threatening to unsubscribe from the channel last Wednesday because I enjoyed a pro wrestling match so much. So we'll go over that. MJF and Will Ospreay absolutely tore the house down, and people were displeased and trying to find ways to pick it apart. So we'll go over why the match made sense, why we're excited about it, the stories that came out of the match that are going into All In. So there's a lot to talk about there. We got news on Bobby Lashley. Apparently he's going to become a free agent. He's opting to step away from the company reportedly on his own terms. So we will go over that. That was broken yesterday by Sean Ross Sapp. And we will go over, apparently everybody wants us to talk about Liv Morgan's shorts, man. Apparently Liv Morgan's shorts should be in the Hall of Fame, says the chat.
It was trending on Twitter last night. What I think you posted a photo, got like 3,500 likes
it's
or whatever.
4,000 likes, man. It's got. I think it's got over like 200 bookmarks, man. You thirsty motherfuckers out there.
Unbelievable. These people. I had it going on in my chat last night. I mean, I couldn't even keep up with the chat. I said, you people need to take a cold shower.
Unbelievable, man. Listen, Liv Morgan's doing anything right. It's that. So.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Daisy Dukes. I mean,
I know. You can't go wrong.
If there's a weakness, I mean, that's it right there.
I know. And on top of that, she's blonde. Everybody in the chat loves blondes. Jason loves his blondes. So
that's how he picked me to be on this show. That was the criteria.
Yeah, it was the top of the list of who I need for new co-host. Got to be blonde. There you go. Can't be Liv Morgan. So, but better Jason than anybody else, man. If it can't be Liv Morgan, yeah. But I will get into the top story here. I'll let Jason get into the top story. But guys, quickly, you guys know the deal. Follow us on social media. Everything you need is linked down below. Hit the subscribe button for both of our individual channels. Again, everything is linked down below. And please get those super chats in. It's the best way to support what we both do here on Tuesday nights. And please hit that thumbs up. We need at least, I'm going to try for 750 likes tonight here on episode 58 of TNT. So as always, man, I'll let you get the party started here. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, the biggest story coming out of Raw last night, and we weren't 100% sure if he would be at SummerSlam. We were pretty sure, but now we have it confirmed. CM Punk cleared. So he is back, and he will be wrestling Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. And wouldn't you know, the special guest referee for that match, Seth Rollins.
Yep.
He's going to be wearing the stripes. I first mentioned it. It was 3 weeks ago. I think it was about 3 weeks ago.
You got personally tipped off, didn't you?
I got personally tipped off.
There you go.
And even I was a little skeptical because when I heard about this, I said, really? I said, he's wrestling for the World Heavyweight title tomorrow night at Money in the Bank. I said, all right, we'll see. And sure enough, here we are. You know, Rollins is not in a match of his own, but he's going to be the referee at SummerSlam. So it played out the way that I expected it to, and I like the idea. It's not a matter of this match needs him. I mean, of all the matches on the SummerSlam card that need that little something extra, it's not this match.
No.
I mean, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, they don't need the help. But I do think it adds a level of intrigue. I mean, don't you think? I mean, now he's got heat with both these guys, so it's like, well, they don't like him. He doesn't like them. So what's going to happen? I think it makes things a little more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I know you and I both are very fond of the 1997 SummerSlam. A lot of people have been throwing that around on social media. We don't know if they're going to absolutely just take from that match and recreate what I honestly feel is the best ending in WWE history to a championship match, that match there between Hart and The Undertaker. But if they go and recreate it, we need some sort of stakes that are on the line. Right now, there's nothing but a blood feud between McIntyre and Punk, which is probably why we're getting the segment next week where Adam Pearce stated that Seth Rollins will have both Punk and McIntyre face-to-face on the go-home show next week, and he's going to lay out his referee rules, his ruling of the match. In your opinion, I don't know if you thought about this on your own or not, but what do you think Rollins is going to bring to the table next week? And is it something that's probably going to add to the ending of the match? Because we all know what happened at the end of that match in 1997. I think, who was it? Shawn Michaels, if he fucked up, he was not allowed to wrestle in the United States anymore, correct? Is that the ruling in that match?
Yeah, that was the stipulation. I mean, that kind of leads into a question that I was going to propose here, because we know that Rollins doesn't like either one of these guys. Yeah. But if you think about it, what would be his incentive for agreeing to be a referee for this match, other than maybe him just wanting to fuck with the two of them? So, and I don't know that they're going to do this, but you mentioned stakes. So I'm wondering, Rollins was told by Damien Priest, even though I beat you at Money in the Bank and we had a gentleman's agreement, after I get done with Gunther at SummerSlam, I'm happy to give you a rematch for the World Heavyweight title, right? So he knows he's got that, assuming Priest retains, which seems very unlikely. But what if, as part of this deal, he gets something out of it, and maybe we find out that Adam Pearce promised him a shot at Gunther and the world title. Should Gunther win the title at SummerSlam, if he does him this favor, and he gets in the ring as a referee, and he has to call it down the middle, which gives him an incentive to not, tip the scales one way or the other. So he's got something riding on this. That, you mentioned SummerSlam 97. Michaels had no choice but to count the three, even though he knew he messed up, because he knew that if he didn't, he wouldn't be able to wrestle in the U.S. anymore. In this case, the twist on it could be that if Rollins does anything, again, to tip the scales one way or the other, and doesn't call it right down the middle, even if he messes up, he's not going to get a shot of the World Heavyweight title. That, to me, I like that idea, because it just adds a little something. He's got some skin in the game, instead of him just saying, oh yeah, sure, I'll be a referee for this match. So it doesn't seem like that's what they're going to do. He's going to give the referee instructions, I guess, next week, whatever the hell that means. But to me, I would like it if we at least found out that he's got something riding on this match too.
Yeah, I actually quite like that, and I always enjoy something where the spotlight gets put on the championship, because why other reasons would we be here? I mean, this is the exact reason why we're all here. Punk is here; he's back for the World Championship. Drew McIntyre obviously wants the World Championship. He's failed 3 times at it, and Punk screwed him over. Rollins wants the World Championship. They all want the World Championship. So, to me, when you put the spotlight on the world title, I don't think there's anything greater. So I do like that. And I said last night, I don't mind that Rollins is not wrestling. We got 7 matches that are full of story, most of them anyway, at SummerSlam. And I feel like this just adds a whole level of unpredictability to the match. I really like this stipulation with him in the special guest referee role. As far as McIntyre and Punk and who wins it, a lot of people were like, oh, Punk's got to win. Punk's got to win. On my end last night, I'm like, no, McIntyre needs to win. He's got to win the first match. Punk can come back and win the second match, and then we get the tiebreaker inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for a while now that McIntyre should win the first match. Now I'm actually wondering if the second match doesn't include Rollins as well, because this is not a triple threat. Maybe we get a triple threat in Berlin, depending on what happens here in this match next weekend. So the second match maybe is a 3-way, and that could be, let's say, where Punk picks up the win, or maybe Rollins picks up the win. But then that third match, it comes down to McIntyre and Punk, and that's where we get Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. But I'm with you. I think that Punk does not need to win. I think Punk should not win. the first match, because to me, it doesn't really make any sense. Why does he need to win the first match? The other thing I think I mentioned this on TNT last week, and I do wonder if this was part of their calculus in wanting Rollins to be a part of this. This is Punk's first match back since the Royal Rumble. And even before the Royal Rumble, it's not like he was wrestling a whole lot. He's coming off some pretty significant injuries, and he may have some ring rust. Do you think that this is at least in part, I mean, I'm sure there's some storyline reason for it, but do you think in part, maybe part of the calculus here is Punk may not be at his best. We don't know exactly what we're going to get from him in the ring. And so by having Rollins in there, maybe in a way it kind of distracts from Punk a little bit. Maybe if he doesn't have his fastball, his best performance in him on night one, people won't be worried and hung up on that so much because they'll be focused on Rollins, because the spotlight will be on him also. What's he going to do?
Yeah, I feel like no matter who is in that special guest referee role, I feel like the microscope is going to be on CM Punk regardless. I think just the way of social media now, and you've seen it, I've seen it this week, it's worse than ever. I honestly think a lot of people are looking for him to fail on that side because they're salty that he got up and left and joined the quote-unquote enemy team. And I do think that they're waiting for him to fuck up again. I think they're waiting for him to get injured, and I think they're waiting for him to fail. So no matter what, I think that Punk is going to be looked at very heavily on Sunday, a week and a half from now, at SummerSlam. And I feel like, the ring rust is going to be something that I'm going to keep an eye on myself. I'm genuinely concerned if he could stay healthy. And there's always a small part of me that gets this anxious feeling. Certain performers just give me that anxious feeling. And I think, Jason, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I mentioned this before, when Big E used to do his dives through the ropes, when Adam Page goes off and does his Asai moonsault off the top rope, when Brian does
anytime
a fucking
Darby
headbutt.
Allin's in the ring.
Yeah, Darby Allin, when Brian lands on his fucking neck, it's like just certain guys in certain spots that just make me cringe and just get riddled with anxiety. Punk is going to be a ball of anxiety himself, but us fans, I mean, like you said, the guy's fucking made of glass, and I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. I hope he can, because WWE TV is so much better with him. The product is better with him. The stories are better with him. They need him, and I just hope he survives it.
Well, that's another reason why Punk should not win the first match. If we are in agreement, and I think we are, that Rollins is going to factor into this finish in some way, then there's more money. The bigger match here is eventually Punk and Rollins. It's not Rollins and McIntyre. Rollins and McIntyre has been done a million times. We've already seen it. Punk and Rollins, we haven't seen. We were going to WrestleMania this year, and then we all know what happened. So if you do the finish in a way where Punk gets screwed, even if it's an accident, but he gets screwed over, well, you now have a built-in reason, if you didn't already, for Rollins to want him and for Punk to want him, and then you can do that, Matt, whenever it is. I mean, if they can hold off until WrestleMania next year, if they want to do it in the fall, that's going to be a big money match. I think that for all the reasons that you could list, it just makes more sense for Punk to take the loss in that first match.
Yeah, that's the way to go for sure. And looking at the field at the top of the card on Monday night, Gunther is not going to have any shortage of opponents whatsoever. It's just who comes out as the first guy to lose ultimately to Gunther, who is going to be the world champion eventually. But moving over to the championship that everybody is fighting over here, Jason, Gunther is obviously looking to grab that championship himself. He's wrestling Damien Priest at SummerSlam. I loved what they did last night. They added another level of intensity to the overall feud. Damien Priest really didn't say much of anything last night. He just came out with fists flying. Gunther continues to be a prick, and he continues to just feel entitled, and he wants to bring prestige back to the title. He continues to tell Damien Priest is trash, and everybody around him is trash.
He doesn't like people from the streets.
No.
That's what I get out of these promos. He doesn't like the streets.
No, he doesn't like the streets at all.
No.
But Gunther and Damien Priest took it to the next level. I love what they did last night. I mentioned on my end, on my stream for Raw, that last night I feel like, and I don't know if you feel the same way, that Triple H may want to keep Priest strong through SummerSlam and then have him drop the title at Bash in Berlin. Now, I just get a sense that with what we saw last night, they're looking to keep Priest strong. They may be looking to keep him strong, so when Gunther beats him, Priest looks good in the end anyway in defeat. But I feel like coming out of last night, there's just a small sliver of me that thinks that Damien Priest is going to win by some way, shape, or form at SummerSlam, and then Gunther's going to be crowned at Bash in Berlin. How do you feel coming out of Monday Night Raw last night with what you've seen from both?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it both ways. If you would have asked me that question months ago, even before King of the Ring, I would have said Berlin is going to be his crowning moment. So I would not be surprised if we had some sort of, I mean, it's not the best finish to your world heavyweight title match, although I have no expectation this is going to close the show. But if you had some sort of a no contest, or we saw them brawling last night, if it's out of control, they shove down the referee and the ref just loses total control over the match and we don't get a clear-cut winner. Now they run it back a second time in Berlin, and then that's where Gunther wins the title. So it's 50-50 for me right now. I'm right smack in the middle. I'm not sure yet. Thankfully, I don't have to make my predictions until next week, but it could go either way. Either way, I don't see Damien Priest escaping the month of August with the World Heavyweight title.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we can pretty much agree on that. So Berlin, it really boils down to, is it better for him to win it there, or is it better for him to just be defending it there? I kind of feel like it would be a bigger deal for him to win it there. But what kind of reaction is he going to get? Is he going to be cheered? Do they want him cheered? He's such a great smug heel. Is that really the reaction you want him to get, in Berlin? If they go in there and Priest is booed and he gets cheered. So I don't know. I don't know where their head is at on that. I just feel like it would be a bigger moment potentially there because of where they are. Even though SummerSlam is a stadium show, and Berlin, I'm pretty sure Berlin is just in a regular arena.
Yes.
But I mean, you know how some of these international crowds are. I mean, they're off the charts. So part of me hopes they hold off on it. How does Finn Balor fit into all this, if at all? Is the Judgment Day going to get involved? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of Judgment Day Easter eggs coming out of Monday Night Raw. I'm sure we'll get into it. But first, I got to get to this because it's a big one. Angel Alaga with a $200 super chat here on episode 58 of TNT. Angel says, here's a super bomb for the two best podcasters in the business. As a huge Mets fan, I hate the Braves. So do I. Now I do. They're fucking awful.
Look at this fair weather fan over here. Look at this guy. Fucking bandwagon fan.
They just lost Ozzy Albies, man, for 8 weeks. It's like, I just throw in the towel, man. It's over. As a huge Mets fan, I hate the Braves, but the thing I have most in common with you, JD, is the love for my fur babies. Unfortunately, I had to put down 3 cats, so I know the pain you are feeling. My prayers are for you and Bacardi. Angel, thank you very much, brother. I am dying on the inside here. She is legitimately at my feet, and she's meowing. I don't know if you guys can hear her, these small little whimpers, but thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that, and this is a very difficult thing for me to do. This is the first cat that I've actually had in my adult life, the first pet that I've owned that I unfortunately have to make this decision on, but I appreciate you, man, and thank you guys for all the love and support that you've given me for the last 48 hours. I truly appreciate it. Damien Priest and Gunther, Jason, to continue on what we've said with these two, I said last week that I feel like Damien Priest is going to have his best match coming out of this with Gunther. Obviously, we see the babyface turn happening right before our very eyes with Damien Priest. It's a foreshadowing of what's going to happen post-Judgment Day with Damien Priest. How are you feeling as far as the overall story? Because I know the fans, I think you and I both included, we were like, all right, it's going to be a good match, but it's not really a standout match that's jumping off the paper for a SummerSlam World Championship match. Is your opinion now, after what you saw last night, changed in regards to that mentality?
No, I wouldn't say it's changed. It's not the marquee match that Gunther and Seth Rollins would have been. It's just not. Yeah. And I think what they did last night was smart because they made it personal. And I just love how Priest came out, right? He had a pissed off expression on his face. No words, just went right to the fists. And you couldn't keep these two apart. I mean, they cut to commercial, they came back, they were fighting in the back again. So I think that what they've done, They've done a very good job of establishing that Gunther is just the biggest douchebag in the world. Like you said, we're seeing the babyface turn for Damien Priest play out right before our eyes. I mean, it's such a basic story, right? You have this conceited guy who thinks that he's better than everybody else, taking on somebody, you know, as he says, from the streets who had to work his way up from nothing. And it's a story I think people can relate to and people can get behind. But again, you look at both these title matches at SummerSlam, and these are two of the weaker title matches on paper that they have had in SummerSlam history. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad matches. I think Priest and Gunther are going to impress a lot of people. You could say that about a lot of people that Gunther is in the ring with, that he's given them their best match. I mean, that really shouldn't be a surprise there. But that I also feel like that might diminish what we have seen from Priest so far. He's had in the ring, as far as the matches he's had a very good run. You know, he's had a bunch of very good matches. This probably will be his best. But it still doesn't have that kind of SummerSlam main event or co-main event kind of marquee cachet to it. They're doing all the right things, but it's not the strongest title match on paper that they could have done for this show. And I think they know that. So they're just doing everything they can to get people invested in it. I think that's working, but I can't sit here and tell you that, you know, I've turned the page. I mean, I knew that coming in. Yeah, I knew how it was going to be coming in, and it still doesn't feel like a huge deal. But you could say that about Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa.
You could. They're banking on Roman Reigns for that one with the interest surrounding that one. But I do agree. And if we know anything about New Yorkers, Damien Priest is from the Bronx. So he's going to look to shut a lot of people up. So he's going to take that and run with it and use that as fuel in Cleveland. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Someone else that we put in that same category as Gunther, Jason, was Ilya Dragunov. He opened the show last night with Braun Breaker. Tremendous match. Dragunov is just an absolute savage. The cell work from Dragunov is some of the best in WWE, some of the best in the business. He reminds me, I mentioned how great last night Dolph Ziggler was, or Nick Nemeth is at selling, and Ricochet. They just make everybody that they are in the ring with better. And Dragunov last night, after that spear, before the referee stoppage, was just fantastic stuff. Braun Breaker completely looks like a savage himself. For all the people saying that he was buried coming out of Money in the Bank, man, you guys are looking dumber and dumber every fucking week. Love it. But what do you think going into this match now? I think it's pretty certain with Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker that we're crowning a new Intercontinental Champion in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I knew that. I mean, in Money in the Bank, it just didn't feel to me like it was going to be a title change. Now, I didn't think that he was going to beat him with the haluva kick. That I didn't think. But it just felt to me like they're saving the bigger moment for the bigger stage, which is what SummerSlam is. I was also surprised that it didn't end up being a three-way with Dragunov involved. And I selfishly, I would have loved to have seen it just because it would have been a fucking fantastic match. But I think Sami and Braun are going to have a great match too. And this is a different feeling. I mean, it's amazing the difference a few weeks can make. Here, I think that if Sami were to win again, that would be a huge mistake. That would be a massive mistake. I didn't feel that way at Money in the Bank. They gave Braun a lot. He didn't come out of it feeling less than. And if you felt like he did, then they fixed it 48 hours later on Raw, because he left him laying, 2 days later, as I figured he would. Here, though, if we get a similar outcome, I don't know what they're thinking. So I can't imagine they're going to beat him twice like that. I also, now, you chime in and let me know if you agree. I got the sense from the main event last night, from the moment that Sami and Jay came out, they did their entrance, they did the old bloodline handshake, they did the 1D during their match, right? They busted that out. It just felt to me we were getting little hints, little breadcrumbs, teasing that future OG bloodline reunion, and that Sami is going to be involved in that. And I've had different people suggesting that. I wasn't sold on that. I didn't necessarily think that's what they were going to do. After last night, I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you. I didn't really call it out last night. Obviously, we don't know the history between Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, but a lot of people in my chat were like, well, do you think this is going to lead to some seeds planted for Sami and Jey to get reunited and then go fight alongside Roman Reigns? And then Jimmy obviously will be there. I now that people are saying it, I see that being the vision, because I said last night, WWE is in this new era. And in this new era, they don't do anything just because it looks good or it sounds good or for the fuck of it. I think everything that they do and everything they put on TV is done for a reason. And I do think that main event last night is specifically for people to start getting that narrative out there. So I can absolutely see that being the case.
Yeah. And so Sammy dropping the Intercontinental title would free him up to do stuff with the Bloodline in the latter part of the year. We have War Games coming up, assuming Rock is not going to be seen again until next year. It lines up 4-on-4 if Sammy were to be involved. Now, they have a lot of heavy lifting to do, and I trust that they will because they're so heavily focused on this Bloodline story. I'm sure this is all meticulously mapped out for the next 6 to 9 months. But they have some heavy lifting to do to explain why Jay would even want to reunite with Roman, considering the way Roman treated him for 4 years. There are ways to do that. I don't think it's that unrealistic. I mean, at the end of the day, they're family, and families fight, and you can always come up or try to come up with some kind of a rational explanation for why he would even agree, to reunite with his brother and his cousin. And I'm sure, Jay could kind of pull Sammy into that. It kind of leads into, and I don't know if you saw this, the comments that Rikishi made. Rikishi has his own podcast. And I get, Rikishi is the father of the Usos and Solo Sikoa, for those who don't know. So he's going to stick up for his sons, right? I get that. But he was really upset that they have not capitalized, in his view, they have not capitalized off of Jay's popularity. He didn't win Money in the Bank. How come he hasn't won any singles titles so far? He's the most over guy that's there. And I'm listening to this, and the reason that I think that is, there's a couple of reasons. Jimmy and Jay had a singles match at WrestleMania that sucked. Okay, I mean, there was a lot of build around that match. It was not any good. Jey Uso is super over, right? He is legitimately one of the most over acts in the entire company. He comes out, the entire building is doing the yeet stuff. He's probably moving a lot of merch. He's doing very well. And he's featured in a lot of main events on TV every week. But he did get beat in the King of the Ring qualifying matches. He was in Money in the Bank. He didn't win. I do think that him, when the bell rings, if he's in there in a singles match, I do think he lacks something that a lot of the other top stars on the WWE roster have. I just think as, an in-ring performer, and maybe it just comes from him being in a tag team for so many years, there's some intangible there that they have that he doesn't have. And I do think that works against him. But I also feel like it's pretty obvious to me they're in a holding pattern right now until they reunite the Bloodline. So in their mind, you're going to put that World Heavyweight title on Gunther in the next month. You're not putting it on Jey Uso. The Intercontinental title, they're trying to build up Braun Breaker and make a new star. Sami Zayn is probably going to do the honors and job to him at SummerSlam. What singles title would you put on Jey Uso? Number one. And number two, if you're just biding time until you get to the fall so that you can reunite Jimmy and Jay and you can reunite the Usos with Roman, that's going to be the key story. Jay's going to be involved in the biggest story in the company. Like, it's so obvious we're getting a Bloodline civil war in the next few months. So that's what I would say to Rikishi or anybody else who is upset and feels that WWE has dropped the ball on Jey Uso. What would you have him doing right now? What championship would you have him holding? You want to just give him the World Heavyweight?
But don't you don't you think Rikishi would kind of know or have at least a sixth sense about where this is going? Like, why is he making such a big deal about something so minuscule when the end goal for his son is probably the biggest storyline in the history of the fucking company?
Right. And again, maybe he does, and he's keeping it close to the vest. But again, he seemed genuinely upset. He even brought up the fact that, like, is this the best the writing team has for Jay? Having him catcall Rhea Ripley. Are they trying to break up the guy's marriage? I better not see him on TV, swap and spit with Rhea Ripley. What are these people doing? So I mean, he seemed genuinely upset by it. But just from a storyline perspective, I don't know what you want the company to be doing with him that they're not already doing. If you could see the bigger picture. And in the next few months, again, he's clearly going to end up being involved in that story. It doesn't mean that down the line, maybe next year, he can't win a singles title. I don't see Jey Uso as a world heavyweight champion. He's over at that level. But do I see Jey Uso as somebody who is the best of the best, who should be holding the world heavyweight championship? I don't. I don't think he's that caliber of performer in the ring. There are a lot of other people on the roster right now, including in his own family, who are ranked way ahead of him. That doesn't mean that he's not super over. He can't be featured in main events. He is. We're seeing it every week. Damn near every week. But it just really struck me, like, can you not see where this is headed? And that's what it feels like they're doing. They're just kind of killing time until they get to the bigger story here. And that's why I think, we don't see him holding any championships or running around with the briefcase or anything like that. And honestly, he's so over. If they're not going to put the title on him, again, there were people who thought he should have won Money in the Bank. No, he should not have. Because he wasn't going to beat Gunther. He wasn't going to beat Cody Rhodes. No. He wasn't going to cash in. So to have him running around with a briefcase for however many months is pointless. It makes no sense.
Well, I mean, this goes back to SummerSlam when he main evented with Roman Reigns in that Bloodline Rules match. I mean, that to me was one of Roman's worst matches in his entire reign against his cousin. And then obviously that filtered on into Jey teaming with Cody and winning the tag team titles. Because I do think at that point they were like, all right, let's again bide some time. This is where he thrives best in a tag team. And then obviously they built the singles match with Jimmy, which was one of the worst WrestleMania matches of the season. So yeah, I do feel like this has been. You said that's his missing piece. He's not really a good singles wrestler. So I don't know why anybody would be upset. I know his father's going to be upset, rightfully so, but I think his father should know better. And I think the fans are going to be very over the moon when they get Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso back together, because Jey would be in a position where he's going to thrive best. I feel like this is one of the situations where they both need each other, and they're not both good individually. So getting them back together is probably the best thing for them, period.
Yeah, it's not even that they're not good individually. Again, he's very over right now. And so when you say good, we're not just talking about in ring.
I mean, he's not delivering a fucking Chad Gable 5-star classic or something along those lines. He's not a great technical wrestler.
No, but he's making a lot more money, I'm sure, for the company than Chad Gable is. But again, like you mentioned the SummerSlam match last year, and to be fair, I think Roman got hurt like in the first 5 minutes of that match. I think he may have something with his ribs. But even still, when I think back to Jey Uso and his body of work, the best matches of Jey Uso's career came tagging with Jimmy. It was those tag matches with the New Day and all those tag team titles that they won together. And I think it's great that Roman was able to parlay this story into a big push for his cousin, and Jey ran with it, and it works. But when people start talking about how come he's not the world heavyweight champion or the WWE champion, I mean, you just got to be serious about this stuff. And just this talent roster, I mean, I could think of very few time periods in WWE history. Maybe around, I'd say 2002, 2003 is probably when they had the strongest roster, in my opinion. But this is one of the strongest talent rosters they've ever had. And, if you're going to have singles matches and you're going to carry a title, let's say for a certain period of time, I do think that you have to be at a certain level. I just think from a singles match perspective, I don't look at Jey Uso as being that guy. But even putting that aside, again, it just seems so clear where this story is headed. And to do anything else with him right now, I think would just mess with that. And believe me, they're not going to mess with the Bloodline story. Like I said, I'm sure they have all this mapped out for months to come through WrestleMania next year and beyond. And I just can't imagine that Jey doesn't end up back, in the Bloodline fold in some way.
How we get him there, that's the next big question. Like you said, how does Roman convince them to get back together? That's another part of the story that a lot of people are going to keep their eyes on. But it's going to be great. And I'm very much looking forward to Roman coming back and kind of setting the table for what's to come for the third and fourth quarter of the year. But you mentioned Jey Uso and Rikishi having a problem with his son getting involved with Rhea Ripley, and obviously there's some sexual connotations there, and Jey is trying to holler at Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley's flirting back with Jey on social media, and now Dominic is asking Rhea Ripley what's going on. But then we get, Jason, last night, Balor I don't know if you felt the same way about this, but Balor pulled Dominic aside when Rhea basically told Dominic, listen, I'm just joking around. I'm playing around. But I've been keeping tabs on what you've been doing on social media with Liv Morgan, too. I'm just having a good time. Nothing serious. She walks away. Finn Balor says, I think you know what you got to do. Now, I don't know what that meant in the light of the entire storyline, but the things that preceded it and the things that followed, we got Dominic out there with Rhea Ripley, and he's basically proclaiming that he hates Liv Morgan. He's siding publicly now with Rhea Ripley. Liv went crying, and that's where we were left off last night. Are you feeling any certain way now after last night's show? I
was feeling a certain way after Liv Morgan was doing that little twirl.
You and every 18 to 49 male demographic, for sure. But are you feeling a completely different way now coming out of last night's show? I mentioned to you last week, I think Dominic's going to end up turning on Rhea Ripley and siding with Liv Morgan. I think Balor is the catalyst for this. Are you feeling any different now coming out of last night's show?
I'm more open to the idea. I've been resistant to that idea. I didn't feel like there was just a flat out betrayal coming, but I'm kind of coming around to the idea now. It felt that way to me last night. Rhea was all smiles, right? She licked his face. She gave him a kiss on the cheek. She was being all lovey-dovey with him in a way that I don't think we've seen her really behave on TV around him that way. It was like they were really laying it on. And then you have Liv Morgan, of course, with the pouty face as she's walking away. And the only thing I'm thinking is, oh, what a great actress she is. So it definitely feels to me like there may be, a knife to the back coming at SummerSlam. But maybe it's even a situation where he sort of accidentally on purpose ends up costing Rhea the match. Because we've talked about this. It would be foolish, I think, to do the title change at SummerSlam and just sort of be done with it. You got to keep this going.
Yeah.
I mean, they know what they're doing with Liv and everything else. And look at the social media views for all of this content, whether it's on X or it's on YouTube. People are going nuts for it. So you got to keep this going a little bit longer. We haven't exactly seen Liv Morgan defend her title very often anyway. I would be surprised if she dropped it at SummerSlam, but she's not beating Rhea Ripley straight up. The only way that she holds on to that title is if Dominic is involved in some way. So I guess that would be my only question. Do you think it's a straight up, betrayal? Like when Dom, remember when he kicked Edge in the balls and he turned on his father? I think that was Clash at the Castle a couple of years ago. Is it something like that? Or is it a case where he thinks he's trying to help Rhea, but in the end he sort of accidentally helps Liv, and that keeps you wondering? And then maybe when we get to Berlin or whatever the next show is that they have a rematch, do we find out there, that he's fallen for Liv, right? He's folded. He's been teasing that he's going to fold and he hasn't, but maybe he's folded. We just don't know it yet. And then at that point, is it a case where Liv kind of kicks him to the curb? Mission accomplished.
It makes sense for it to be an accidental, or at least come off as an accidental win for Liv Morgan because of Dominic Mysterio. But I think we've been there, done that with that situation. I just want to see the fucking world burn, honestly. I would love to see a full-blown, just 100% betrayal. And then when we get to Bad Blood eventually, like you said, the feud should absolutely continue. Rhea wins the championship there, and she just overcomes everything. I feel like WWE is in the midst of a very special babyface run with Rhea Ripley, and for them to find some way to enhance that, I think would be in their best interest. And I think a betrayal will get it to the next level. Dominic falling for Liv Morgan, it's a very risky situation because you shouldn't really be trusting Liv. But after last night, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at her shorts as the reason why Dominic folded. So, I mean, whatever.
That's what it took after all this time.
Yeah, listen, man, that's
straddling her didn't work.
That's all it will take, honestly. A lot of people. Listen, you said the social media views, bro. I mean, you look at this, it's like one of them shitty reality shows, like Love Island or Temptation Island, fucking Jersey Shore.
Remember,
it's
like
chaos.
I told you, you didn't believe me. I told you there's a show called MILF Manor, and you had to look it up because you didn't believe me. Oh, yeah.
Yes, MILF Manor, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're going, man. This is, the ratings obviously were up last night. The demographic was up. So people are enjoying this shit. And I said, I'm not the biggest Liv Morgan advocate. I'm not. But her role in this, her presentation, the way she's come off, the way she's owned this seductress character, even though she's not going in there and defending the title and she's not looked upon to defend the championship, you know, with what she's doing, I don't know if you agree, but the lack of in-ring with her defending the title compared to her character work, she's somehow enhancing the overall fucking title picture here with Rhea Ripley, and she's obviously the star of this program. So whatever she is doing, this is obviously working, and this is the best portrayal of Liv Morgan that I think we've ever seen. So yes, she does deserve her flowers, though a lot of people are going to pinpoint, oh, she hasn't defended the title. Who gives a shit? To me, story is everything, and right now Liv Morgan is telling the fucking story, and I love that.
Well, I mean, you could say that about Roman Reigns, you know, in his run. It's not like he was defending the title all the time either, but you had these segments, these bloodline segments, these occasional bloodline ceremonies. I mean, they can go 35 minutes, but, you know, some of them were, you know, and I hate using this word, but as some people would say, cinema. You know, we had, when you have those types, makes my skin crawl, but when you have those types of segments, that's really what it's all about. Like you said, it's about story. It's about those types of segments that can really, you know, kind of draw people in. And you forget that Roman hasn't defended his title more than 4 times in a given year, you know? But so I get what you're saying, and she has knocked it out of the park. And it's one of those things where you took a negative and you turned it into a positive. When Rhea Ripley got hurt, that sucked. And it came at a time when Becky Lynch, within a month, Becky Lynch was gone, right? All of a sudden, coming out of WrestleMania, it's like that women's division, you could count, okay, they have this name and that name, and then Rhea goes down and Becky leaves, and I think maybe somebody else got hurt. And it was so quick how, you know, things turned to shit so quickly. And then Liv Morgan, they came up with this story in Rhea's absence where she was, you know, seducing Dominic, and it's been like the dominant storyline on their show. Look at McIntyre and Punk. Punk has been hurt since January. On the men's side, it's the biggest story going on Raw all year. Punk hasn't wrestled a single match. It's about story. It's about the feud. How personal do you get? And it's starting to get personal now between Rhea and Liv. It's been personal now for many months with Punk and McIntyre. Those two stories have been carrying this show all year long.
Yeah.
Have they not?
I mean, just look at the Judgment Day coming out of WrestleMania. We were all wondering what they were doing. I mean, they just fell into this pit of like mediocrity, and now now look at where the story's going. Like you can't compare.
They're all over the show every week in multiple segments. The Judgment Day. When the Judgment Day eventually disbands, they're going to have to fill some big holes on that show because they're in so many segments every single week. So, like, if let's say if they go with your idea and Dominic betrays Rhea straight up, what effect does that have on the Judgment Day? Right? We don't know. It could blow up the entire group.
How does Balor play into the Damien Priest-Gunther match? Balor, I feel like, is pulling the strings. I feel like Balor is in cahoots with Liv Morgan. I feel like Balor is kind of infiltrating Dominic's mindset. Like, I think Balor took great interest and great frustration with Rhea Ripley last night. Like, why are we doing this with Jey Uso? What the fuck is wrong with you kind of thing? But I think Balor is kind of facilitating all this, and I think he's the ringleader here.
He didn't just take an interest in Liv Morgan. He took the key card. Remember, he took the hotel key card, so that's something not to forget. And
it was open-ended yesterday when Dominic saw Liv in the shorts in the hallway last night. Balor says, "I can't leave you alone for 10 seconds," and this is what happens. And then he sends Dominic the other way, and the way that Liv Morgan ran, I feel like they left it open-ended. I feel like Balor went to go follow Liv Morgan. So I feel like they're in cahoots here, man.
Can you blame him?
No. After what she was wearing last night, no. SummerSlam is looking great. I got the card here, 7 matches as of last night, fully announced. We got 7 matches, guys. So for all the fucking geeks online who want to complain that Triple H only gives us 5 matches, there's 7 matches at SummerSlam. But plus, there's open-endedness for more. I don't think we get more, but I hope we do.
Well, I was going to say, does that mean we're not getting Uncle Howdy against Chad Gable?
Unfortunately not. I would love it, but I don't think we are. Do you think we're
don't think they want? Well, I mean, you don't think they don't want to do like a Wyatt 6 entrance in that big stadium?
I would love to see it. I just don't know if they go and do it. But I mentioned last night, is that going to end well for Chad Gable and the Creeds? No, not at all.
No.
But Bo Dallas looked great last night. But that is not officially on the card. We got 7 matches, 6 of which are championship matches, plus the grudge match between Punk and McIntyre. Zayn Breaker, Logan Paul, LA Knight, Cody Solo, Liv and Rhea, Bayley, Nia, and Damien Priest versus Gunther, man. So on paper, their story. I'm excited. Jason's excited. So we will see what happens going into SummerSlam. But Monday Night Raw, man, pushing the stories. 3 hours has been largely very entertaining. I remember just a couple of years ago, you and I fucking could not stand Monday Night Raw. We could barely stay awake during Monday Night Raw. And now all of a sudden it's become the A show, obviously with the move to Netflix coming. And then on the flip side, SmackDown. I mean, you and I, man, we'll be at House of Glory on Friday. If there's a fucking week to miss on Friday, man, with the spoilers that were released, I mean, this is the week to miss. Holy shit, man. Show's fucking boring.
We lucked out. I was worried, like when I knew that we had a Friday date, and there were some reports a couple of weeks ago that they were thinking about bringing Roman Reigns back even earlier than SummerSlam, maybe like 2 weeks before SummerSlam, or like a week before. And I said, oh no. But then I realized, it's taped, and I saw the spoilers, and I said, we don't got nothing to worry about there. And it's weird because maybe not even a month ago, SmackDown was hot. There were a whole bunch of SmackDown shows that were hot, like boom, 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 one right after the other. And man, how quickly things can turn. Where Raw, for the most part, it's not a perfect show, but for the most part, Raw has been knocking them dead now for many weeks. And the last couple of weeks, at least 2-3 weeks of SmackDown, especially last week, just a very average show. I can't call it a bad show. It's not like I've seen bad shows from WWE. And believe me, you think it can't get any worse, it can get much worse. It's just there's not a lot there because it feels like they're just killing time until who finally shows up at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and the only thing of note that happened on SmackDown was Logan Paul, LA Knight. I thought they had a great segment for the United States Championship. And then Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. Cody teaming with Kevin Owens at the end of the show against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, which then led to the beatdown on Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes at the end of the show. More of the same old shit for the Bloodline attacking the babyfaces. But the one big question, Jason, I even posted on social media before I went live last Friday, and a lot of people were like, well, it depends on the outcome of the match. It does at SummerSlam, but the one question I had coming out of SmackDown was, boy, Cody, and I know he's a babyface, and this is a traditional babyface thing, fighting from behind and then overcoming the odds in the end when it really matters, but as far as Cody, man, he's always on the receiving end of a fucking ass beating. And then going into SummerSlam, obviously, yes, they need to make the Bloodline look strong, and they need to make Solo look like a true contender for the World Championship because I don't think anybody believes in him. And they need to make the Bloodline look great because Roman's coming back. All these different variables. But Cody going into SummerSlam, he looks so fucking weak, man. He's fighting behind the 8 ball here. And then you get to SummerSlam, what do we do with the outcome? Because obviously he's not losing the championship. Solo's not going to win the championship. Do we get Cody beating Solo clean, which I feel like they absolutely 100% need to do? Or do we get Roman Reigns coming back, helping Cody win, and then solidifying Cody as, hey, man, you're my bitch again, all over again. You're number 2. I don't think we need that. I think Cody needs to win solidly on his own and retain the title.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal scenario. He should not need to rely on anyone's help. It's the same thing I said going into WrestleMania this year. I said he has to win this on his own. He can't win this because The Undertaker helped him, or because, John Cena helped him, or Steve Austin came out and, gave a stunner to Roman Reigns. Like, it's one thing to have people come out to neutralize the threat from the Bloodline. And that's really the only question I think left to answer. Does Roman come out during the match? Because I look at it and think he comes out when the match is over. That's when they hit his music. We get a face-off. And they could leave it there. Like, what a cliffhanger for the end of the show. But he could come out, and don't forget Jimmy. We haven't seen Jimmy in a few months. Do they come out during the match to take out Jacob Fatu and to take out Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa? And now it's a fair fight. Now it's just Cody and Solo. What did Cody say about Solo on Friday that he had told him a year and a half ago? You're not ready. He has to go out there and prove it. To do that, he has to go out there and beat him on his own. So I do think that's important because reality is once Roman Reigns comes back, whether people like it or not that Cody is not over. He's super over and he's still going to be. But you're going to have 1A and 1B. 1A is going to be Roman Reigns. 1B is going to be Cody Rhodes. That's just the way it's going to be, at least initially. when Roman comes back, because he's been gone for many months. People have been, chanting every week, we want Roman, we want Roman. And we know what the top story on SmackDown is. So it doesn't matter who Cody Rhodes feuds with. He could feud with Randy Orton. I hope he does. That should be his next big feud. It's going to take a backseat to the Bloodline. This is the Bloodline show. And so you're either on board, or boy, does SmackDown suck for you. Because this has been the Bloodline show for 4 years, and there's no sign of it slowing down anytime soon. It's going to continue to be the Bloodline show for maybe a couple more years to come. So whatever's going on in that story is going to take precedent over everything else on the show. The worst thing you could do, given that we know that's going to happen, on top of all that, is have Roman come back. Let's say it's Roman. He comes back and he has to help Cody win. Like directly help Cody win. That would be a mistake. But, having him come out and just take out the other guys around the ring, I don't have an issue with that. But it's important that Cody does look strong coming out of this, because in a way, he's going to look like little brother no matter what. Once Roman Reigns comes back, and there's just nothing he can do about it. Because Roman is just, here's the thing you got to remember. When Brock Lesnar was in WWE, he felt like a special attraction, right? That's how he was booked. He was treated like one. We didn't see him all the time. He didn't need the title. His music would hit, and just the feel, right? That feeling was just different when he was around. You're going to have that now with Roman Reigns. He had the title for almost 4 years. Now he's going to come back. He's going to be a babyface. He's going to be like, the badass babyface, not the babyface that everybody hated, 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And he's just going to be on another level from everybody else, because we don't get to see him all the time. And it's very hard to compete with that. There's just something about those types of performers, because they're so protected and sheltered in a way, where everybody else, you have kind of everybody else, and then you have them. And I feel like Roman now has moved into that territory, like what Brock was in for so long.
That's a good spot for him to be in. I would rather that than him going and chasing another championship, which right now I don't think is needed. Honestly, it's beneath him. I think the story is so much greater for Roman now than the title. And going back to what you said with SmackDown having Roman and Cody at the top, man, I mean, that's a great situation for creative to be in, because you don't usually see that level of talent, number one, and then fucking 1A and 1B. It almost reminds me in Atlanta Braves terms, like you got a fucking pitching staff of Greg Maddux and John Smoltz, man. Who the fuck's like? Why would you be? If you're the other team, that's a fucking problem, man, on any given week. So that's a great problem to have.
No, it's a fantastic problem to have. If you're Paul Levesque, I'd much rather have that problem than not have one really over babyface, right? I mean, and believe me, they've been through some dark periods in the history of this company where business was down, it wasn't great, and they would have killed to have somebody as over as Cody Rhodes, or as over as Roman Reigns, or even Jey Uso. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you think about how many people right now on that roster on either brand are super over. LA Knight, right? You could put him in that category. CM Punk. They have a lot of different people, a lot of different baby faces who fit that bill. So it's a great problem for him to have. But if you're Cody, you want to be protective over your not really spot, but like your image and how you're portrayed on TV. You don't want to be perceived as being less than. I think he'll be okay, but that's where when we get into the decision of, okay, how do you do the finish? Carefully is how you book that finish, because you don't want him to continue to look weak. Like you said, he's getting beaten up on TV every week. The payoff needs to be that he wins, and he wins decisively on his own.
Yeah, I think taking a page out of the Royal Rumble last year and that playbook, when Sammy turned on Roman and the chair shot heard around the world happened. That happened at the end of that match. So I don't know why we can't just go and take a page out of that and have everything happen with Roman returning, staring down Solo, getting the visual of both bloodlines staring at each other at the end of the match or at the end of the show to cap off that SummerSlam. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Because I agree, and I don't think you need Roman out there during the match. Yeah. So do you have Kevin Owens come out, and then maybe Jimmy makes his return, and just have some of those names fight off the other members of the bloodline? So it's just Cody and Solo. Cody wins, and then post-match, however you want to do it post-match, whether, again, Cody's getting beaten down again or whatever, It could just be a case of Solo when he gets back up to his feet. You know, he's angry, he's pissed off, maybe he's admonishing the other members of the bloodline, and then, you know, boom, the music hits. But I think Owens doesn't have a match on the show. I would think at the very least, you know, he would go out there and try to fight those guys off. He's also been laid out, right? He got laid out on Friday too. Jimmy's been missing for a few months. Last we saw him, he got laid out by Solo and Tama Tonga. Randy Orton, I don't know if we're going to see. I mean,
I would not put him in that position.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. And I feel like the angle they did, it felt like a way to write him off so he's not at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But you got, like I said, Owens and Jimmy, and that's really all you need as far as people to run out and just fight off the other members of the bloodline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with Cody. I think that's the way to go. And as a side note, I think it's going to really show how valuable Randy Orton is, because if we are already talking that Roman is going to supersede Cody as the biggest babyface in the company, even though Cody is the world champion, Randy's going to have to be a downright, absolutely vicious fucking viper, heel, legend killer, whatever you want him to be. He's got to be the most sadistic motherfucker out there to help Cody maintain that level of babyface, because you don't want that to weaken with Roman's return. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play Cody and Roman with Randy, and that fusing of Randy and Cody together for that feud for the World Championship. It's going to be very interesting how they even get that started, and then how it takes shape with the Bloodline story happening on the opposite end. So SmackDown is hopefully going to pick up the pace and become a much more must-see show with both of these storylines leading the charge, but let's get through SummerSlam first, but it's very interesting to see play out.
You know, one thing I'm looking forward to is SmackDown leaving Fox.
Yes.
Very much looking forward to that. Hopefully no more black screens.
Was there a black screen on Friday? I don't remember.
Yes. It's usually when Logan Paul comes out, when he makes his entrance. And it doesn't look like, you know, he's saying anything. It's probably somebody has like a T-shirt on or flips him off or whatever. But I noticed that especially during his entrance where the screen, and I think they may have muted the audio too. I think everything just went out.
Yeah, it just went out, yeah.
Yeah, just for like 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh God, September can't get here fast enough.
Yeah, man, with Raw moving to Netflix, SmackDown moving to USA Network, who knows what Triple H has up his sleeve, man. Liv Morgan wearing the shorts last night. Imagine what she may be wearing on Netflix. I don't know.
Well, you can't let that go, huh? Keep going back to the booty shorts there.
I mean, it was the whole promotion for tonight's stream, man. I just used the picture of Liv Morgan.
Nobody
gave us any fancy pictures today, man. What happened?
Because they were so focused on Liv Morgan's ass.
I guess so.
I was a little worried. I'll be honest with you. I was a little worried somebody was going to Photoshop my face on Liv Morgan's body.
I think someone actually may have requested that.
I'm not surprised. Nobody needs to see that. So,
no, nobody wants to see that.
No. But all you had to do was just throw that one picture up, and that was it. That's all you had to do to get people's attention.
Yeah, like you got to see what we're doing, man. Yeah, you can't look away. You can't look away.
Nope.
Shifting gears, man. We'll get into the AEW talk. We got some Blood and Guts preview coming up. We'll talk about the MJF and Will Ospreay stuff. We'll just bundle that in with the AEW discussion. But I want to shift gears over to something that Jason and I have not talked about together, man, and that's Bobby Lashley's WWE contract coming up very soon. Could be on his way out of the company. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select learned that former WWE champion Bobby Lashley and his contract is up within the next month or so, possibly over the course of weeks. Now, PWN, these guys are relatively new to the space. They're on social media. Dirt Sheet learned that Lashley was removed from the internal roster page, though he is still featured on the company's website. And Fightful was also able to confirm this news. Lashley's been out of action for a number of months. Sources have told Fightful that he plans on continuing wrestling if for some reason an extension is not reached with the WWE. Lashley has not been factored into creative since the spring. He's wrestled 5 televised matches this year and 1 at WrestleMania in April. Though we haven't heard specific aspirations to continue fighting as of late, we're told by those close to him that it isn't out of the realm of possibility for him to get back into fighting if the right situation presented itself again. Now, Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer newsletter stated that he knows that there has been talk of them trying to get into AEW, meaning him and MVP. It's one of those things where technically nobody can talk to them because I don't believe either contract has expired, but their contracts are going to expire, and they are at this point, as things stand right now, under WWE contract, and they are gone, and that they are going to try and revamp the Hurt Business. I don't know if they'll use that name or not. I guess it depends on the ownership of the name. They want to get Shelton Benjamin, apparently, who's also a free agent, and revamp the group in AEW. Whether or not this happens, it depends on Tony Khan, but it's something that is definitely under consideration and something that is very much alive. Now, I'll stop there before I get into what MVP said and did on social media, Jason. Lashley and his contract coming up, a lot of the social media discourse, they embarrassed themselves for a second straight week, which is not really all that surprising for the internet wrestling community. They immediately jumped on the racism bandwagon for whatever reason, saying that Triple H and the current administration dropped the ball on Bobby Lashley and all these other different excuses. Now, if you want to go back and document what had happened, go back to a year and a half ago. I said this on social media in a very long post. Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, to me, you could correct me if I'm wrong, was originally the plan possibly for WrestleMania that year, correct?
Originally, but I think by the time they had done the second match, it was at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
So I think the original plan maybe was to do it in Mania. I think by then I can't imagine they were going to run it back again. So plans probably changed by that point. But yeah, I mean, they did the first match of the Royal Rumble, I believe.
Yeah, and neither one of those matches were great at all. I honestly I thought both of them completely bombed. And I think personally a lot of that had to come down to creative. Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I mean, the creative there probably was very political and just one huge mess. So then we got shifted because Vince was still very much involved. A lot of people are like Triple H. No, Vince was very much still involved. His shadow was largely looming over WrestleMania that year. Omos versus Lesnar, and Bobby Lashley was scheduled to wrestle Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, and Bray obviously fell ill. That did not happen. Bobby Lashley was shifted to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and they had him carry out this fucking trophy on night 2, and then carry it into Monday with no creative plans whatsoever. He then, Jason, feuded with Austin Theory for the United States Championship for the good portion of the spring and summer months up until the fall. We get into November. CM Punk is back. Triple H is now largely in charge of creative. Vince is now out. The whole Janelle Grant thing is starting to take shape. But Triple H at that point, started to get Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits together, little hints, little teases. We didn't really get a name for them for several weeks. Then all of a sudden we get the Pride. They're the Pride on SmackDown. And then he gets him into a feud with the Final Testament and Karrion Kross, an AOP, which does not light the world on fire in any sense of the word. It's fucking awful. There wasn't even any real reason why they were feuding. And a lot of people from that point on, because Lashley was with the Street Profits, they were wrestling Kross and AOP. They didn't go anywhere after that. He eventually got hurt and has been off television ever since. But a lot of people are like, racism. MVP on social media, Triple H is emasculating black men, and you see it. You see what's happening. And all these different narratives, man. What do you make of this nonsense? And Triple H, in my honest opinion, is somewhat to blame, just like you mentioned with Ricochet. He could have changed it. But a lot of the blame for the Hurt Business and the reason why the Hurt Business isn't together and why they didn't get back together, to me, largely falls in the lap of Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a responsibility to go around a lot of different people. What they did with Lashley last year was terrible. Leaving him off the WrestleMania card. I think he came out of WrestleMania to pose with his trophy, right? And that was it. And I understand, what happened with Bray. Nobody expected that to happen. I wasn't even a fan of them doing that match. I just thought it was going to be a clash of styles. I didn't think it was going to be any good. But at least it would have gotten him on the card. So I felt bad for Lashley because through no fault of his own, he got left off he got left off the biggest show of the year at a time when, he was over and he was otherwise active, and then he's just not on the show. But Triple H absolutely bears some of the responsibility here because he had the opportunity to do more with Bobby Lashley. Even after Vince McMahon's influence had waned and the Irish Menace was gone, he had the chance to do something meaningful with Lashley, and he really didn't. And the thing that surprised me the most is, at no point during that run that Roman Reigns was on did we get Roman Reigns against Bobby Lashley. We also didn't get Roman Reigns against AJ Styles. And those were two matches that I thought for sure at some point we would get, in 3.5 years. And we never did. Now, had they done the match, you and I both know that would not have ended well for Bobby Lashley. Then you would have had people complaining about, he's been buried and they just beat him and moved on. And how could they, do him like that? everyone's always going to have a complaint no matter what they do. But that did surprise me. I thought at some point we would get that match, and it's almost like they just intentionally kept them apart from each other. And you could have gotten at least one, if not two, pay-per-view matches out of that. But I want to take it back to the Hurt Business, because there's a lot of people who are getting excited about the possibility of the Hurt Business being reunited, and oh, they dropped the ball with the Hurt Business. They definitely broke them up prematurely. Absolutely. There was more mileage left in the Hurt Business. And for whatever reason, Vince McMahon just decided, because they fought him tooth and nail on that. You know, MVP and Bobby Lashley, they met with Vince and they said, no, you can't do this. They were adamantly against him breaking up the group, but he was done with the group and he said, nope, you're done. That's it.
He was more done with Cedric and Shelton at that point, I think, though.
Well, but here's my point. All the people who were talking about the Hurt Business and how they were misused, and again, it's one thing to say that they could have been together for longer. I agree with that. The purpose of the Hurt Business, or like, I think you even wrote this, I think, in the description, if I'm not mistaken. I think you wrote Hurt Business, a failure. Here's the thing. The Hurt Business was never about getting Shelton Benjamin over. It was never about getting Cedric Alexander over. It was never about getting MVP over. The purpose of the Hurt Business was to get Bobby Lashley over. It was to get him over to that next level, and it accomplished that. The Hurt Business succeeded because it was only after that that Bobby Lashley the following year went on to win the WWE Championship. And by then, I think the Hurt Business was already disbanded, I think. But he did ultimately win the WWE title. That was the whole purpose of it.
Which was his best run in WWE, period. That run.
It was the most success he's ever had. Unfortunately, it came in front of no fans for the most part, but that was the purpose of the Hurt Business, and it worked. It's like the group that he had in TNA. I looked at Bobby Lashley prior to that. He was always a freak athlete, and, you know, he had some success his first run in WWE, and then he disappeared for a while. But I don't know if you remember, in TNA, or Impact, I guess, at the time, he had his own group. Dan Lambert was a part of it, American Top Team.
I remember.
And that was the best push of Bobby Lashley's career. And I remember going to some of those TNA shows. They had them over at the Manhattan Center. I was right there in the front row for it. And Lashley was the world champion. He won his first world title in TNA. That elevated him to that next level, that group, that association. And it's very similar in WWE with the Hurt Business. They come out there, they're dressed up in all suits and shades, and they look like a bunch of badasses coming out there. It's like their own version of the Main Event Mafia, the way they used to dress up in TNA. But it's what elevated him in the eyes of a lot of people to that next level, and it won him a world title. Were they prematurely broken up? Absolutely. Is there more they could have done with them? You bet your ass. I would have loved to have seen Shelton Benjamin get some kind of a mid-card title run. You could have done that. Shelton Benjamin is still awesome.
Under any creative, you put Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander together in a tag team and give them something to do, they could be a great tag team. I don't give a shit what you say.
Absolutely. They teased the Hurt Business reunion. If you remember, there were some backstage segments where they were kind of teasing the possibility of maybe they were going to get back together. I don't know why they didn't follow through on that idea. To me, that just felt like maybe they had an idea and then Triple H just, for whatever reason, decided against it. Or they were just trying to blue ball people. I don't know what the purpose of those little hints and teases were, but unfortunately, nothing ever came out of that. But again, that was the purpose of the Hurt Business, and it worked, and then it was over. And let's not pretend like the Hurt Business is one of the greatest factions of all time. I enjoyed it. I would have loved to have seen more of it. There were other stories that could have been told. But the way that I see some people overreacting when it comes to the Hurt Business and, you know, oh my God, they should reform it in AEW. First of all, they can't use that name. So if they want to do that, that's fine, but they can't use the Hurt Business name. And it's not like the Hurt Business was some great fucking name anyway. So if they want to come up with another name, that's fine. I don't have an issue with them if they want to reform it, let's say in AEW. And I don't know that that's where Lashley would end up. We don't know. I can't get in his head. I don't know. Maybe he wants to fight. Maybe he wants to have a run in Japan. That would be very interesting, actually, to see Bobby Lashley over in New Japan. Their finances now are not what they were a few years ago. Could they afford him? I don't know. This is not the same New Japan of, you know, pre-pandemic. He could land in any number of places. He could go back to TNA, where he really had his first major singles success, as far as being like a world champion. He could go back there and have a run there and still have the ability maybe to work other places as well. If he was to end up in AEW with MVP, I think MVP was an underutilized resource in WWE. I think he would make a great manager for, any number of people. And I think maybe it was you. I don't know. Somebody mentioned.
I said Jade Cargill. Why don't they pair him with Jade Cargill?
Well, not even Jade, but like if he were to go to AEW, I think somebody had mentioned Hobbs.
Yeah, I mentioned Will Hobbs in my post on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Powerhouse Hobbs. And so I can see that too, because poor Will Hobbs, I mean, my God, he's bounced around to how many factions now, right? It was Team Taz, and then he was part of QT's crew, and then it was the Callis family. And then he got hurt, but let's be honest, even if he didn't get hurt, he'd still be stuck in the same spot he's always been in. So he's another one who is completely underutilized and needs to find something. I'm not sure if this would be it or not. But if they want to give it another go with the Hurt Business, in a different company under a different name, I think it could work. It's AEW. They already have a lot of different acts on TV. I don't know.
And that would be 3 more, including Shelton. You want to bring Shelton because I think that's what the vision from MVP is. They're going to try and push that wherever they go next. That would be 3 more, Jason, ex-WWE guys joining AEW. And I don't think that's something that they really need right now. I think a lot of people are going to look down on that.
Yeah. So I'm not even sure that at the end of the day they would be happy there. But again, I can't get in their head. I don't know where their head is at. They are still under contract right now. They're still listed on the roster page. But interestingly, if it's a contract expiration situation, whenever their contracts expire, I don't know if it's the same day or if it's within a week of each other, they would be free to walk right into any other company they want to the very next day. Yeah, they would not be bound by any non-compete. They have to sit home for 90 days. It wouldn't be a situation like that. So that would be interesting, but I don't know what the ultimate catalyst is for what is being rumored. And that's all it is right now, is a rumor. Nothing's been stated officially. Is it a case where WWE is letting their contracts expire because they have nothing for them?
Well, he is pushing what? He's 48 years old. MVP is 50 years old. Age obviously has been a factor here, and this new administration might not have created for someone that age.
Well, look, I mean, MVP being 50, it doesn't matter. If he's a manager, he could be 60. It wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But Bobby Lashley is 48 years old. AJ Styles is 47 years old. And there are a lot of people who have been saying, oh man, AJ needs to have one more run with the WWE title. And guess what? He hasn't gotten it either. He had 2 matches with Cody Rhodes. He lost them both. It could just be a situation where they're building for the future. And there really is no top spot right now, as over as he is, for Bobby Lashley. Because again, Gunther is going to end up being the world heavyweight champion. Cody Rhodes has a stranglehold right now on the WWE title. And they have the bloodline story, and they have Punk and McIntyre. So where does Lashley fit into this? Maybe they just don't have that spot, and they'd rather build towards the future. And they'd rather build up people like Carmelo Hayes and like Braun Breaker and people like that. And I can understand it if Lashley is maybe creatively unsatisfied. Absolutely, I could totally get that. And he looks like $1 million. I mean, look, the guy's almost 50 years old. Jesus Christ. I mean, he looks fucking amazing at any age, let alone 48 years old. But he is still 48 years old. And it just may be a case where Triple H is not going to seriously push him because there is no spot for him right now. That does not necessarily mean that Bobby Lashley is being held down or held back because he's black. It doesn't mean that Triple H hates black people. It doesn't mean that Triple H is a racist. You want to go back in Triple H's history, you can go all the way back to when DX mocked the nation and he wore blackface on TV. You can go back to WrestleMania 19 and the build up to the match with Booker T when he was on television cutting
all
promos.
All situations that were cited on social media. I'm like, okay, guys, 25 years ago, really?
Yeah. But I'm saying, though, if you want to point out these different scenarios where he was saying racist shit on TV or doing something that would be perceived as racist, you can do that. That doesn't mean that Paul Levesque is a racist. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe he is. I don't know him. I have not seen any indication that he himself is a racist. But as far as
him pushing black talent, I mean, that's just a ridiculous narrative. You could go back to the NXT Black and Gold days, Velveteen Dream, Ricochet, Keith Lee, Carmelo Hayes on this new NXT, Trick Williams.
Well, yeah,
I mean, they had
look at the
Red fucking host the goddamn pay-per-view a couple months ago.
But you could say that's Shawn Michaels, right? You could make the argument that that's Shawn Michaels play, that's his sandbox now. It's not Triple H, and he let Shawn do his own thing. And to their credit, look, you've got Trick Williams. They're pushing this, this new kid Javon Evans very hard. And Oba Femi is the North American champion. Kalani Jordan is the women's North American champion. You've got Wes Lee. So, like, there's a lot of African-American talent right now that is killing it and getting pushed in NXT. And again, maybe that is more of a Shawn Michaels thing, but I'm not even talking about that so much. It's just the Bobby Lashley and MVP thing. Is it possible that, because MVP has not come out and said, "Oh, I think Triple H is a racist."
No,
but he is either sharing messages or responding to messages in very vague ways where he doesn't exactly deny these comments that people are making, right? So all that's doing is fanning the flames, and it makes you think, does he know something we don't? Because look, he's back there. He's probably tried to make these pitches to Triple H, and he has flat out said, like, it was Triple H's decision. He didn't want the Hurt Business. We tried. He said no. He doesn't want it. Now, but is there more to it, though, that you are sort of intimating that maybe there's a racial element to this here? Because that's a serious story if that's the case. Is there something that he said, or is there something that you have knowledge of that leads you to believe that maybe we don't know? That's a different story. All I can do is comment on what I know of this guy. And yeah, maybe I would have said that about Vince McMahon and all the fucking racist shit and racist gimmicks we saw for years on TV. But as far as Paul Levesque, I can't sit here and say that. Are there examples, though, where, like, Montez Ford? Let's take Montez Ford as an example. That's another head scratcher for me. Because you go back to last year at Elimination Chamber when they gave Montez Ford a spot in the chamber, and I thought he killed it. He had this great performance, and he looked great. And it really felt like he was poised to break out. I really thought that they were going to push him into a U.S. title feud with Austin Theory coming out of WrestleMania, and that would have been great. Right, two of the young stars on the roster going after, this U.S. title. It's like it never even happened. How did they follow up on that? Nothing. Triple H did nothing, and that's on him. That's not on Vince McMahon. That's on Triple H. So I've given up any hope that Montez Ford is going to get some kind of a singles push because clearly that's not in the cards for him, and I don't know why.
Was that the time, though? I mean, maybe it just was a test
why
run,
not?
But was it really the time to break them up then?
Test run. That was the test run that was a year and a half ago. He seemed like he passed the test to me. So why a year and a half later is he still stuck in this tag team?
You and I have discussed the problems within the tag team division. They still probably are very much needed in that role. Why would you break them up now when the tag team division is so sorely lacking?
Who says you have to break them up? You don't have to break them up. You could have done more with him as a single and use that as a test and see if he gets more over. If he gets super over, the way like Jey Uso got over, yeah, then you can split him away from Angelo Dawkins. Doesn't mean that you have to do a barbershop, segment where he fucking throws him through a window and turns on him.
Maybe it's just a situation. Maybe it's just a situation where they understand that Montez is that guy, but they're also liable for Angelo Dawkins. Like, they don't want to do anything with Montez unless they have something planned for Angelo Dawkins. Because if you do one with the other, it's like, what happens to the other guy?
Then how do you explain Jimmy and Jay?
Well, Jimmy's been selling a storyline. It's easy for him. He's out.
Well, maybe it's easier because he's part of that family, so he's going to be protected. But no, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all because they were going in that direction a year and a half ago, and he was getting over. And here we are now, almost a full year and a half later, and he is stuck now in purgatory because, and you said Bobby Lashley, he got hurt, and we haven't seen him ever since. I'm not even sure he got hurt. We may have just found out the reason why he vanished from TV. It had nothing to do with an injury. Because I was wondering, like, oh, he got hurt. I wonder how it happened. And I thought it was odd that Fightful and The Observer and none of these sites had any kind of injury update on Bobby Lashley. So I'm not even sure he got hurt. It may have just been a case where, he got taken off TV and there's been this kind of stuff going on behind the scenes. But because he's been gone, the Street Profits and BFAB, they've just sort of been floundering now on TV. I think also what maybe hurt them is the fact that they tried to turn them heel and the fans didn't want to boo them.
Yeah.
fans really liked Lashley, so they kept cheering them. And maybe they had plans for them as a heel faction, and then the fans went and fucked it all up because they just didn't want to boo these guys. And maybe they ended up stuck because of that. But you know, like the Montez Ford thing, though, that there's no excuse there. There's no excuse. Triple H dropped the ball on that. He could have, you know, experimented with that a little bit more. I think there could have been something there. There still could be. But it's very clear to me that he's got nothing planned for Montez Ford as a single. And I think that that's bullshit. But as far as Lashley is concerned, all the things we just talked about, I think it's a combination of the responsibility goes around to different people. But he is 48 years old. There is no obvious spot right now for him. They had him doing the feud with Karrion Kross. That didn't do anybody any good. If he was on SmackDown right now, at this moment, what would he be doing? Because he's not going to be involved in the WWE Championship or anything with the Bloodline. So what is he going to be doing? LA Knight's already going for the U.S. title, right? I mean, this is what I mean. There's no obvious spot.
You'd have to wait for LA Knight to win the championship and then maybe turn him heel. But who wants to boo Bobby Lashley? He was an incredibly over babyface. Like,
they tried that, right? They tried that and it didn't work. People just kept cheering for him. That's what I mean. So there's a lot of blame.
Move him to Raw,
there.
feud him with Gunther, but like you just previously stated, nobody's taking that. When Gunther wins that championship, we're looking at least 365 days minimum with that championship. So
no, I don't think so. That's not a guarantee.
You don't think Gunther's at least going to hold it for a year?
Not necessarily.
I'd give him a year.
Not necessarily. No, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't consider giving him a year, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion he's going to go a full year uninterrupted as the champion. But no, I mean, that would be fine. I wouldn't have an issue with that. Even if Lashley isn't going to win, get a couple of matches out of him and Gunther, I think that could be fun. Just because he's not going to win doesn't mean you just shouldn't do it.
Well, going back to MVP, you know, they say, or the rumor is, Triple H said no to the Hurt Business. He didn't want to bring it back to television. But you're talking about somebody that's probably got shit planned out till next year's WrestleMania. And now you got to find a spot for this group. And I stated in my post on social media, I'm like, why do you want the group back so badly when the original inception of the group was great? Everybody loved it. It was thriving. It was needed in the time that it was created. Now you bring it back. It's not even going to hold a candle to the previous version of the group. Why bring it back if it's only going to be playing second fiddle to what was previously created? I don't really understand why people want something when it's not going to be better than the original inception. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do people want that? Like, people want sequels to a movie when it's never going to be better than the first one, or they want a remake of a certain movie, and it's never going to be something that's better than the original. I don't understand people's mindset there. I'd rather just leave it and remember it as it was.
Well, I mean, look, we can't say for sure that they wouldn't have come up with a really cool idea for it, and maybe it would have been fine. They killed it a long time ago. Yeah, the kind of the magic of it is gone. You could try to recapture it. And again, I don't want to make it out to sound like more than it is. Like it's going to go down in history. You're going to have the Horsemen, the NWO, and the Hurt Business. Like, no, but you know, for its time, it was a cool group, you know? And again, it accomplished its goal. Even if they were to turn around and say, no, when it first started, that wasn't the idea. Well, that's the way it played out. The way it played out is it got Bobby Lashley over to that next level, and it got him a WWE title. So I look at it, even though it was cut off early, it was a success, but it's over now. And I think that this Pride group, I mean, I was never a fan of the name, but it could have been something. It didn't go the way that I think they had hoped that it would. If Lashley is frustrated, I can see why. And if he feels he has to just go somewhere else and he wants to try his hand there, look, I'll be rooting for him. I'll be watching. I'll be cheering for him because I think Bobby Lashley is fucking great. And I think MVP, whether it's just Lashley or he's going to start his own little faction like Callis and, you know, Taz used to have in AEW, I think that's a great role for him to be in too. I think he's been severely underutilized. You know, they put him with Omos and, you know, didn't really do much there. And so I never understood why you've got this guy. He's a great resource. Put him with somebody else. Let him form, you know, another group of his own.
Carmelo Hayes would have been perfect.
Put those skills to the test. And for whatever reason, maybe he was making waves behind the scenes like he seems to be doing on social media, and he rubbed the wrong people the wrong way.
That's the next thing I had in the notes here. It's like you hear about this unity in the locker room. Everybody's happy, over the moon about how the atmosphere is backstage, and you got MVP making these subtle remarks on social media. It's like, well, who do you believe? Like some of the major names in the locker room came out that the atmosphere is great. Liv Morgan recently came out and said that Triple H is great to work with. Unity is great. He's so open-minded with everything that we bring to him. And we got MVP out on social media kind of creating these own narratives. It's like, who do you believe? Do you want to believe the 50-year-old aging veteran who doesn't have a spot in the youth movement just to kind of make his own news headlines, or do you believe the locker room? I don't know. It's fucked up.
No, it is fucked up. And again, maybe he's got knowledge of things that we don't. Maybe he had conversations and knows things that maybe one day he'll spill the beans and we'll find out, why he was so unhappy. But it could just as easily be, like you said, a situation where he just grew disillusioned with what they were doing with him and with them. They really wanted this group back. Triple H said, no, it's not in the cards. We already have the bloodline. We already have so many factions. We don't need another one. If it's not going to be...
This may be a situation with the two C's, cash and creative. It may not be one. It may be both of them here.
It could, at the end of the day, it could just be a case where they had a certain vision for what the Hurt Business should be, and Triple H said, that's not the vision that I have. And it's not going to be any bigger than the two biggest groups we already have.
Yeah.
Which are the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. And those are our two big factions. The Judgment Day is on Mondays. The Bloodline is on Fridays. And whatever we do with the Hurt Business, it's not going to be that. And so I'm not going to bother doing it. It could have been as simple as that. I can't get in his brain, so I don't know why he was so resistant. I don't know why he would have teased it in the first place. Because there were a few backstage segments where they really dropped some hints that maybe we were going to get a reunion, and to not deliver on it, again, I don't know if something changed, but it's over and it's done, and obviously it's not coming back in WWE, and if they feel like they can reform it somewhere else, then God bless them. I hope it works out.
If it's AEW, Lashley, Benjamin, MVP, and possibly Will Hobbs, I could see that being a new version of the Hurt Business under a different name, obviously. And then if they go to TNA, I could obviously see Shelton being a part of that. I think they would thrive in TNA. I think that would be great. Bobby Lashley versus PCO, Lashley versus Santana, Moose, Nemeth, Ali, Speedball, you name it. I mean, there's a whole slew of opponents there. Macklin, whole slew of opponents from over there. So I think he would thrive there. And TNA's got this fucking renaissance going on now with the partnership with NXT. That might be a landing spot for him. Can they pay him? I don't know. That's probably going to be a huge factor, but we'll see. You guys need to just calm down as far as you wanting to see the Hurt Business. You may see it in a different shape, and Lashley may be leading it the way that you guys want to see it. So just give it time and stop using the excuses, please. Honestly. Social media, man, it's crazy. Nobody thinks. Nobody wants to have a genuine discussion, man. They want to jump to this reason, that narrative. Come on. Same thing happened with yeah, I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
That's a good segue. I was going to say that's a good segue into one of the other topics here.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. MJF and Will Ospreay, 1 hour on Dynamite this past Wednesday. One of the best matches in AEW history. One of the top matches in the 5 years of AEW Dynamite. Probably the best match that you could probably ever envision for MJF coming back, man. You and I, everybody, honestly, felt like this was going to be set for the Wembley stage with 50,000 plus watching these two beasts go at it. And Tony Khan booked it north of Little Rock, Arkansas, in front of 2,500 people. Now, I said it the week prior on my Dynamite post with Jesse. I said, normally this is something that the old JD would automatically shit all over. But seeing who's involved, you know what? I'm going to take a different road here. I'm going to give it time to play out. And I hate using that terminology, let it play out, but I'm going to let it play out. I did not like the fact that it took place in front of 2,500 people, but they were loud and they brought the energy, and both MJF and Osprey absolutely fucking killed it. But did your opinion of the match line up with mine? Were you genuinely head-scratching yourself with the announcement of the match taking place on Dynamite? Would you rather have seen it at Wembley first and then move on to whatever happens next? Or were you like me and say, you know what? We're getting this match. Let's embrace it. We all know that Tony Khan's in the midst of a TV deal, so obviously he's loading up this show for obvious reasons. Let's see the fucking process play out, man. What was your mindset?
I mean, my mindset going into it was, I think he's crazy for, giving the first match away on TV. But then was reminded, he did the same thing with CM Punk and MJF. Their first match was not on a pay-per-view. Their first match was on Dynamite. It was in Chicago, and MJF got the win, and then they ran it back at Revolution in the dog collar match, and Punk got his win back. So it's kind of like history repeating itself in a way. But my mindset was that you could do the first match at Wembley, and it'll be more special that way. And I don't know that MJF has to win the international title unless they want him to win it, to drop it to Daniel Garcia. Watching what they did, you were not going to get an hour-long match at Wembley Stadium. Not with, I don't even know how many matches are going to end up on that show. I'm sure it'll be fucking 15 matches on that show. You were not going to be able to do a 60 or 59-minute, 58-second match on that show. So this is what they wanted to do. I thought it was a very clever finish. It took some balls to do that, to go all the way to the end like that, and then with 2 seconds left, and it looked like they're going to protect these guys by having neither man lose, and then MJF just beats him. So I thought it was clever, and I liked the way they did the finish. Now they can run it back at Wembley. It's just such an obvious rematch, and yet I'm not totally sure that's what they're going to do, because we know that Pac has an international title match, lined up, and the way he was talking about it, it sounded like he was going to get it at Wembley. I find it very hard to believe that MJF and Pac is going to be the match at Wembley Stadium, because then what does Ospreay do? Yeah, Ricochet could come in. You could do him and Ricochet as an attraction. But there is unfinished business here now with MJF and Ospreay. He won with the diamond ring. It's not like he won fair and square. The way that Swerve beat Ospreay at Forbidden Door. And that was a one and done. This can't be a one and done. This is set up perfectly now for a rematch where Ospreay can go into Wembley as the challenger and potentially win the belt back there. And so I like that, but I'm not 100% sure it's going to work out that way. It sure seems like it, though.
That's the right direction, in my honest opinion. The rating, obviously, Tony Khan's in the midst of a TV deal. We got news on that in a little bit. It's imminent, supposedly. There's a deal in place, supposedly. But the TV deal is the reason why he loaded this show up. Episode 250, Tony Khan also loves his numbers and his anniversaries and his celebrations, so obviously he was going to make a big deal about this. The match itself, Jason, it was unbelievable. There was a lot of story going into it, coming out of it. The rating was under 800,000. It came in at 795,000. It was the highest.
Which I said it would be.
Yes, you did. Highest in 3 months. I did look at the quarter-by-quarter breakdown. The match, honestly, it grew in rating as the longer it went on. I think at the peak, towards the end, I think the last third to fourth portion of that match, they were trending around 840,000, 841,000. So obviously, they maintained the interest. And, given who's involved here, I don't know why you would not trust MJF and Will Ospreay to deliver a great match and a story. But it did work. The risk worked. 60 minutes between the two best wrestlers in the world, in my honest opinion, maintained consistent interest. Match of the year contender. It's obviously a subjective thing. Is it the best Dynamite match of all time? I guess that's up for debate. Is it MJF's best match? No. Is it Ospreay's best match? No, but it fucking killed. Both raised their stock even higher than it was previously. To me, I don't know how you feel, the International Championship is now more important because of it with MJF, because I raised the question, if Ospreay was still the International Champion now going into All In, what the fuck would he be doing with it? Open challenges? Now that it's on MJF, he's taking it to CMLL. He's defending the championship this coming weekend, isn't he?
I believe it's next Friday. I think it's the day before SummerSlam. And he was teasing on Twitter that he might be on that Tokyo Dome show, the second night of the Tokyo Dome, which has all the different promotions. It's going to have CMLL and Ring of Honor and AEW. If he's still the champion at that point, we don't even know if he'll still have the title by January. I'm guessing not. But yeah, he's teasing taking it to different places and defending, I guess, the honor of America, in some of these places. That's kind of what the title was conceived of when it first was developed, and Pac was defending it, like independent shows in Europe.
Yeah, and they gave it to Orange Cassidy, and then, he did that sporadically, but it was never really focused on. But
no.
MJF is going to be in CMLL next Friday. The rematch, obviously, from my vantage point, rematch is set for Wembley just based off the outcome because he cheated. He won the championship. And the whole story that I think a lot of people were not paying attention to, the biggest part of the story, MJF cheating, Ospreay not using the Tiger Driver, key to the match now happening in Wembley. And it's something that we're going to be looking forward to, because if MJF, Swerve mentioned that Ospreay didn't have the balls to do it. He doesn't have that killer instinct. And now MJF is poking the bear even further. MJF cheated with the ring. Is Ospreay going to break out the Tiger Driver to win the rematch and the championship back at Wembley? That's something to keep an eye on. Danny Garcia now has even more of a reason to target MJF, because the title that Danny Garcia wanted, now MJF holds. So a lot of people, Jason, were looking to pick this shit apart, and they didn't really love or really appreciate what had happened in the match to potentially see where it was going. They jumped to rip it apart. Oh, it went too long. 60 minutes. Nobody wants to sit there and watch a 60-minute match. Will Ospreay wasn't selling the leg in the last 5-10 minutes of the match. It's like, I mean, you guys are fucking crazy. I mean, the excuses that I saw were absolutely ridiculous, and social media really made an embarrassment of themselves. I feel like with what happened on Wednesday, you don't really get that all that often. And for two great pro wrestlers who went out there and did their job better than anybody, and for us to not appreciate it as fans, this is a reason why the pro wrestlers fucking hate their own fan bases. It sucks. And then you got people citing Cage Match. I didn't read the story. I didn't really know of this until the Thursday or Friday. I think Cage Match changed their fucking rules because of the tribalism, didn't they?
Yeah, and I covered this. I covered this on my show. Basically, you know, it's one thing to have a criticism of the match if you didn't like it. I'm not going to shit on you if you didn't like the match. That's fine. Not everybody is going to like everything that I like. I'm not going to like everything that somebody else likes.
Not everybody loves 60 minutes of pro wrestling consecutively. I do.
Right. There were people who said, oh, if it was just 20 or 25 or 30 minutes shorter, it would have been better. It felt a little slow to me. That's a perfectly fine, valid criticism. I have no issue with that. What made me laugh, though, were the people, I did see some people who were complaining about, like at the beginning of the match, MJF was stalling and he was playing to the crowd. And I laugh at that. I go, how long have you been watching wrestling for? Like,
he's a fucking heel.
Don't watch any Ric Flair matches in the 80s, because you're not going to like those very much.
Oh, my God. And, the funny thing is, bro, he was starting slow, but by fucking minute 50, these guys were wrestling like they were minute 10. That they were going full steam ahead at 50 fucking minutes. I'm like, what is their cardio regime like? That's what I was looking at. Fuck selling a move.
Yeah, like you could watch, if you watch those kind of classic long Okada matches from New Japan, one of the biggest criticisms of him there was, man, like you could tell that you're in for a 45-minute Okada match based on the way it starts. And that's not really what they did here. I mean, within the first 5 minutes, they were trying to hit their big moves, and they were going balls to the wall here. And I mean, we saw, on social media, I think MJF last week posted a video. He was in his garage. He was on the cardio machine for like 2 hours, dripping sweat. So he was working his ass off.
Great promo.
Yeah, cut a great promo while he was working out. So yeah, these guys, they're in incredible shape to be able to keep up that pace. And they did it pretty much for the entire 60 minutes. But it just made me laugh like, he was clearly stalling. And yeah, no shit, because he was going 60 minutes and he's a fucking heel. And that's what he does. He went into the crowd. He threw water on people. He like teased doing something and then he ducked out. He got booed. It's called being a heel. Like, you would think that these people had never watched pro wrestling before. But then there were the criticisms about how, they don't know how to work. MJF doesn't know how to work. Will Ospreay, he just flips and he doesn't know how to work and he doesn't know how to sell and he doesn't know how to do this and he doesn't know how to do that. And that's where, I kind of look at that and I go, now you're not arguing in good faith, because it's one thing to say you didn't like the match. Fine. You don't have to like the match. I thought it was easily one of the greatest matches in Dynamite history. It's up there. It's top 3 as far as, because we've seen some great matches on Dynamite over the last 5 years. And this one is way up there. There are matches that will go even less than their match did. And I get bored. It's too long. I always think back to the Edge and Randy Orton match from the Empty Warehouse WrestleMania. Oh, yeah. The last man standing match, which was like fucking, it was torture. Some people loved it. I thought it was fucking boring.
But I felt like went too long.
Oh my God. That I thought it would never end. It was just so self-indulgent. Like they had their vision and I'm sorry, it didn't work. But this never felt I never looked at my watch like, oh man, I wish this would end. Like, they kept up a great pace. I thought they kept it interesting. I was, into the entire thing from start to finish. And so I thought it was great. When you start saying, oh, they don't know how to work, that, and then they're picking apart every little thing with the idea that they don't know how to work. These are two of the best workers in the wrestling business today, in any promotion. And the big hit on MJF for so long was he can talk, but he can't work. And then he won the world title, and I think he shut a lot of people up. Because think of all the great matches that he had, right? Even before he became world champion, the matches with Punk and the match with Darby that one year, I think it was at Full Gear. And a lot of the title matches, the match on Collision with Kenny Omega, on and on and on and on and on. MJF shut a lot of people up by proving that he can work just as well as he can talk on the mic. Will Ospreay, I mean, do I even need to say anything? He's the best in the world right now. Bell to bell, the best in the world, any promotion, is Will Ospreay. This man is incapable of going out there and having a bad match. When this year is over and I look at the list of matches that I have on there, the best matches of the year, he's going to be in the vast majority of them.
Like 8 of them.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Even just this year so far in AEW, the match at Dynasty with Bryan Danielson, the match with Swerve at Forbidden Door, which was outstanding. Takeshita. Okay, the match last week, whatever he's going to be doing at Wembley, he's going to go out there with something to prove. So you take two of the best workers in the entire business, you put them in the ring, of course they're going to have a fantastic match. And I hope they get to run it back. But yes, there were a lot of very embarrassing comments this week and people who showed their ass who are very loyal to one side over the other. And also probably a lot of people who frankly didn't sit through the match and didn't really watch it. No. But they came into it with an agenda anyway. Case in point, cage match. So what happened there is, and this is really the most pathetic part of this entire thing. For those who don't know, cagematch.net is a very useful resource online. It has a lot of great information and statistics on wrestlers and past events, and it's a great little resource.
It is a great tool. Jason and I use it a lot to get ready for House of Glory in our commentary. I use it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it just got a lot of really useful information on there, and it's free. I mean, there may be a pay component to it, but it's a free resource. Anybody can hop on there and use it. And at the beginning of the year, I think it was in January, the tribalism got so bad, and I don't know what triggered it, but the tribalism got so bad between the WWE fans and the AEW fans that Matt Mack is the one who runs the website, had to institute a new rule where you are not allowed, when you leave a review, like a show ends and then you want to go post a review, if you're posting a review for a WWE show, let's say, that just ended, you can't mention AEW or Tony Khan, because that's what people were doing. They were saying, oh, this is so much better than that AEW crap.
I think what originally got it started was that whole Jinder Mahal hook thing, and Seth Rollins getting a championship match or giving a championship match to Mahal. I think that was it.
That may have been it.
Yeah.
And so it happened on both sides. And he said, look, from now on, whatever the rule was, he had to lay down a new rule. He came this close to shutting the whole website down, because I can imagine just the bullshit that he had to deal with. And he's got a full-time job, and he's like, I don't need this crap. Then we have this match on Wednesday. And it blew me away because, again, like, it's one thing to not like the match, but for it to be so visceral, it was such a divisive match. And I'm like, this is a polarizing match? This is one of the greatest matches of the entire year. What the fuck? Like, this is this divisive. And it was so bad that people were review bombing the match on Cage Match. And again, I guarantee you there were people in there who didn't actually watch it. But they're going on there and they're posting, 0.0 rating, 1.0 rating. These guys suck. They don't know how to work. The match was boring. And they were just review bombing. And so he had to institute a new rule and revamp the entire system where, again, you can't post a review until a certain amount of hours or days have gone by. And again, I'm not going to get into the weeds on that, but he was very upset because, again, he was getting hit from all sides. He was getting hit from the tribalists, who are out of control and don't have a single brain cell that they can share between them. And he was getting it from the other people who were like, man, you got to take care of the tribalists here. They're ruining the site. So he was getting pulled in both directions. And it's just one of these things where we are in a period right now where, you and I've been doing my show for a long time. I've sat through some great wrestling and great periods of wrestling. And I have sat through some fucking god-awful periods. And I've seen a lot of really bad wrestling television. And I'm very grateful that right now we're in a place where even if AEW is not necessarily at its strongest point, and we certainly have our criticisms of the product and creative and things that Tony Khan has done this year, but we are in a place right now where wrestling is pretty fucking great. We got great wrestling and great stories in WWE. We got maybe not as many great stories, but we got stories and great wrestling in AEW. TNA is at a point right now where it's doing better than it has in quite some time. The indies are thriving. Like, this is actually a really great period for pro wrestling. And the fact that you have these two warring factions between the stands on either side, who they're so loyal to their billionaire over the other billionaire. And they're so loyal to a set of initials over the other set of initials. And they will fight to the death over this. It's pathetic. And it makes all wrestling fans look like fucking knuckle-dragging mutants who can't tie their own shoes. It's embarrassing. And it needs to stop. I know it's not going to, but it needs to stop. Yeah, because every time we have a situation like this, and it will happen again this year, or a match like this that people really, really love, right? And then the other side is like, well, let's rain on their parade and let them know that, it's not as great as they think it is. All you're doing is, again, you're showing your true colors, and you're showing yourself for what you are. You're not a real fan. You're a troll. And at the end of the day, that really is what you are. You're not really a wrestling fan.
No.
You're a troll. You thrive on chaos, and you thrive on trying to troll other people and get a reaction out of them. That's not a fan.
Yeah, it's it's funny how people in this discussion said that MJF and Will Ospreay don't know how to wrestle. They can't wrestle. You mean the two guys that you would absolutely bend over backwards, love to have on the other team, for sure, and they will both eventually end up over there. That's my prediction. I think MJF ends up in WWE. Ospreay ends up over there eventually. But back in my day, I remember picking up a guitar and writing music with my brother and wanting to be in a fucking metal band. That was my way of really kind of letting out that energy, or playing baseball, or fucking whatever, But today, this is what people at that age are doing to entertain themselves, and it's quite sad. And I have done a good job at ignoring most of it, but when it's something like this, when it's stuff like this, it's very tough for me to ignore. And I didn't go scorched earth on Wednesday, but a lot of people were very adamant that this was a bad match. I'm like, no, that people were coming up to me, this was a bad match. I'm like, well, okay, why? Can you tell me why it was a bad match? And nobody had a valid reason as to why it was a bad match. Why was Dynamite a bad show? Dynamite, I have largely criticized Dynamite all year. For the past 3 weeks, I thought they've put on tremendous shows. I'm so excited for what's happening at All In. And this is a huge deviation away from what happened going into Double or Nothing, and going into Forbidden Door, and coming out of Revolution.
The angle with Tony Storm and Mariah May 2 weeks ago.
That ending was one of the greatest endings in the history of that show. Like, what are we complaining about? Like, I don't understand. And people were angry that I enjoyed two guys that I fondly love watching wrestling. I don't feel that way about a lot of people. These two guys make me feel. So I don't understand why I had to get shit on for this. And Jason, the other excuse was, Dynamite was a bad show. It fell off a cliff after the 1 hour Iron Man match. I'm like, well, I don't really understand what you expect to follow two of legitimately maybe one and number two in the fucking world. Number one. Number two, what else did you expect to have happen on that show? Oh, they could have built stories. I'm like, they did. They have a fucking steel cage match that I don't know if you guys realize will be at least 1 hour tomorrow night. So you're going to have all those complaints happening all over again. Why does one match have to take up the majority of the show? Because that's the way the show is structured. That's what they wanted to do creatively. They built towards blood and guts. Let's get to, and I shit on Tony Khan. I'm not afraid to shit on him creatively when it calls for it, but he wanted to put focus on that match. Let's get through that match tomorrow night. And then we got 5 weeks of fucking build for All In, man. They got plenty of time for a show that they already have 4 top matches set for. What the fuck do you want from him? I give him shit. Jason's giving him shit. This is not the time to give him shit, fellas. Stop. You just look stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it just, again, of all the segments or matches, for there to be this just reaction, this just insanity. I maybe I should not have been surprised, but I just saw it and I just shook my head. I go, really? This is what's going on? It's like that gif of the guy who walks into the apartment with the pizza and the fucking apartment's on fire. I was like, that was me. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what, really? Like, what is going on here? It just makes all wrestling fans look just absolutely brainless and just stupid.
Like, I get it. There's a market to shit on AEW, and a lot of people love, even if they don't like the content that Jason and I are putting out, they love to see us shit on something that they genuinely hate. But would you rather us lie, or would you rather us be honest? I mean, that's not what we built our reputations on.
I mean, when there's a good time to shit on something, if you're that passionate about it, believe me, you'll hear about it. You know, believe me, we're not gonna shy away from it. But that was just, it was a tremendous match. Even if you don't think it was one of the best matches in Dynamite history, it was a tremendous piece of business. And I applaud both of them because, like I said, they never, hit the brake. It was the gas pedal all the way. You could quibble about, the sell job on this, and he got right back up and kicked out of that. Those are normal criticisms that you could always, find fault with in these kind of big pay-per-view quality matches that they do. But I thought the work was outstanding. I thought the story they told during the match was outstanding. And when he finally hits that Tiger Driver, I hope he wins with it, because they're building it up so much that for somebody to just kick out of it, I think would be ridiculous. It was ridiculous as it was, because I think Bryan Danielson was back on TV like 2 weeks later and he was fine, but we'll put that aside. But when he finally hits that move, it should be a big deal, right? They've been carrying that over since April. That was one of the reasons that led to him splitting away from the Callis family, is that Callis kept wanting him to do the move and he said no. And I'm sure that story has yet to play itself out, because if you think Don Callis is going to let him walk away from that family unscathed just like that, then you're not paying attention. So there's story going on if you pay attention to what's going on here. And I just thought they did an outstanding job with it. And to see that kind of reaction, and again, it's probably a relatively small subset of fans, but because we are part of this whole community here, we see it. We notice it. Maybe the casual fan who doesn't pay attention to stuff like Cage Match or Twitter discourse, maybe they don't see it, but we do, and it's pathetic. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's sad, and it's only going to get worse. It'll happen tomorrow night. It'll happen going into Wembley. It'll happen when WrestleMania goes to London and AEW's record for overall attendance is broken at Wembley because WrestleMania is held there. It's never going to end.
Yeah, look, it happens with free agents when you think they're, look at Stephanie Vaquer. We talked about her, right? I mean, it happened there too. AEW fans thought they had her. She went to WWE. There were some AEW fans who were not very happy about that. And that's fine, but there were a few comments that were over the top, I would say, because just, again, it goes back to the whole tribal nature of how some fans are, and they feel like this is my team. I have to carry the flag for this team no matter what. And if things go the other way, they get very vocal about it, and it just makes them look very sad and small. And I also feel like with some of these people, honestly, I do believe that some of these people are just lacking something in their lives.
They are.
This is all they have.
Female affection is one of them.
Well, I'm sure that's part of it, but there could be. Well, they just need more Liv Morgan in their lives.
Everybody needs more Liv Morgan. Come on now.
Well, I would say so.
Yes. I feel like it's never going to end, and it's going to happen with Ricochet when Ricochet goes and joins AEW, which I want to make my prediction known here. I don't know how you feel about it. We talked about it briefly with MJF. Osprey probably taking place again at Wembley. I think that's the right move to make. I think that's where they are going. I think with the outcome of that match, MJF drops the title there thanks to Danny Garcia. I think we get Danny Garcia versus MJF in some sort of maybe stipulation match at All Out. I think we get Paige and Swerve going into All Out. I like the fact that we're kind of piecing All Out together as well, slowly with the build to All In. Ricochet is coming on in, and I think we do see him going into Wembley. You mentioned Pac before, Jason. I genuinely think that maybe they made a mistake with Pac announcing so early that he's going after the international championship. Maybe he is, but not right now. I think you said it as well on social media. I think Pac and Ricochet would be a top-tier match to open Wembley. I do think that we get Ricochet and Ospreay at All Out. I don't know how you feel about that, but I like the way that they're tying both shows together. It's a lot better than what they were doing last year.
Yeah, I don't know about Ricochet and Osprey necessarily at All Out. I mean, I guess it just depends on when they bring him in. I mean, he's free and clear now, as far as anybody knows. So if that's the case, I do believe he would be coming here. Nothing's been said, but I would imagine he's coming in here. I mean, Osprey was practically begging for him to come in, so I'm sure he'll end up there at some point. I just don't know when. I don't know if that's the All Out match, or if he will be at Wembley. Yeah, I mean, Pac announcing the whole international title thing, it kind of threw a monkey wrench into things. He talked more about wanting to make sure that he gets his Wembley moment. I don't think that necessarily needs to be for the international title. Him against Ricochet would be a great way for him to get his Wembley moment, and a great way to introduce Ricochet, because it was that match years ago, I think, that really kind of took the wrestling world by storm and got these guys noticed in the first place. So it would kind of be appropriate to run it back after all these years. So yeah, I'm still a little unclear on how that's all going to work out, but we do have Blood and Guts tomorrow night. So just to touch on that, one thing about Blood and Guts that I will say, it still doesn't feel to me, and this is what is this now? The third or fourth Blood and Guts that they've done? Third, maybe, right?
I'd have to look it up. I want to say this is the third installment of Blood and Guts.
If so, it hasn't been much more than that. Maybe the weakest going in of all the Blood and Guts matches, just as far as like the purpose of it. And I think it just goes back to how weak this angle has been with the Elite and their takeover of AEW. And I love Okada, and I think he's great. I'm entertained by what they're doing with him for the most part, although they have to be careful not to turn him into a cartoon character in the way that they book him. But we're going into this Blood and Guts match. Does it really feel like there are stakes on the line here? Does it really feel like, oh man, this company's in real jeopardy of falling at the feet of the Elite if they get another win over Team AEW? It's lacking that urgency. It doesn't have that. But Hangman Page is on one side, Swerve is on the other. I am going to predict. Now, I know the Elite already won Anarchy in the Arena, so there may be some people who figure Team AEW is going to win here. My mind is Hangman wins it for the Elite by pinning Swerve.
Wow.
And that way, that way, there's two options now. You could add him to the main event at Wembley and make it a three-way with Hangman, Swerve, and Danielson. He kind of wins his way in there. Or by pinning Swerve, he has now set himself up to challenge for the World Championship at All Out, coming out of All In, because he's got that pinfall win over Swerve. Because I'm assuming when they eventually wrestle, it's probably not going to be a case of Hangman beating Swerve. Swerve will probably beat him again. But this gives Hangman that win. He can say, I got you, and now I'm going to take your title. And you could do that in Chicago 2 weeks after Wembley, because he's got that win over Swerve. That's the idea that I like, and I keep coming back to it. Normally, like pinning the champion, it's like, unless you're going to win the title, you don't pin the champion. But as long as he gets a shot at the title, I have no issue with that. Because I don't know what else you do. For example, at Wembley, if they turn it into a three-way, what else would you do with Hangman unless he's just off the show and you do the match 2 weeks later? But that's how I see it playing out.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario for sure. I could see that playing out, but my question would be, if we don't do that and they don't do your idea, where are we putting Paige on the Wembley show? Is he just going to miss the show and just be featured at All Out? I mean, it would be tough to leave that level of talent off of their biggest show of the year.
Well, I mean, they're leaving Jey Uso off SummerSlam.
That's a good point.
Which I'm sure Rikishi is not happy about, but there's some names that are not going to be on that card. Randy Orton, Jey Uso. Yeah. It happens, in both companies, where you have the difference, of course, being that Tony Khan is going to have probably fucking 24 matches on this show. So in a way, it's kind of crazy if he doesn't have a match. I just figure if he ends up on the show at this point, it's just going to be some random match just to get him on the card because there's no obvious place for him. You know, his sole focus right now is Swerve. He wants to kill this man. He wants to kill him and he wants to take his title from him. That's the story.
We don't know if Tony Khan is leaning towards giving Bryan the championship in his last full year as well. I mean, there's a lot of variables going into Wembley, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out going into All Out for sure. But Blood and Guts is tomorrow. Last year's iteration of Blood and Guts saw the Golden Elite, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, and Kota Ibushi against the Blackpool Combat Club. That was Jon Moxley, Claudio Wheeler, and Konosuke Takeshita along with Pac. So, I mean, there was at least a story there, or whatever, more of a chaotic feel there, reason for it happening there, more so than it is this year.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, why is, for example, Mark Briscoe in this match? I love Mark Briscoe. You know, he's the Ring of Honor World Champion, but like, what does he have to do with any of this?
He has absolutely nothing to do. So I do agree with your sentiments because I've been asking that for months. What's at stake? Does anybody feel like the company is going to fall because the Elite's leading the company? Tony Khan's there. We know he's leading the company. We know he's booking creatively. Like, what's happening with the company? It'll be the same fucking way the following Wednesday going into All In. It's like there's no different. But my question to you, Jason, is 2 points here. You know, obviously, I don't want to create this narrative that, you know, AEW is falling and this and that. But I think everybody with a straight head on their shoulders knows that AEW's interest going into this year, All In, Blood and Guts, it's significantly down from the year prior. So just to give you a glimpse of what happened last year, Blood and Guts averaged 953,000 viewers on TV. They did a 0.34 in the key demo. And this year, their average outside of last year's Dynamite 250, which did 795,000, they've been averaging anywhere between 650 and 700,000 a week. That's obviously significantly down from where they were, overall viewers. The demo is down as well. They're doing anywhere between 0.20 and 0.25, I think, in the demo. Obviously, last year's rating was 0.34. The attendance in the building tomorrow night is roughly around 3,800 people. Last year, they had near 9,000. With this information now obviously known and obviously readily available to anybody that wants it, going into this TV deal, is this something that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to look at? And how do you feel about AEW as a whole? Is this a problem? Do you look at this as being a problem for the company?
Yeah, of course it's a problem. I mean, when year over year, your numbers go down, that's not good. You don't want your numbers to go down. You want your numbers to go up, right? It's no different with, anything in life. So that's not a good thing. Do I think that them only having, what would you say, 3,500 people
roughly
in the
about
building?
3,800, I think it'll be.
All right. So having, let's say, 3,800 people. Now, I don't know what the capacity of this building is that they're running as compared to last year. I don't know. Maybe it was a bigger building. But if they felt like they could get 9,000 people, they would have run a building with 9,000 people. So there's no positive way to spin that. Do I think Warner Brothers Discovery cares about that? No. I think they care more so about how the show performs on TV. The show this past week, even though it was under 800,000, was still up, I think, 17% or 15% from the week before.
Just to give you a glimpse, the Bridgestone Arena is where the show is taking place tomorrow night. Average between 17 and 20,000 people in attendance.
Wow. That says it all.
I mean,
now, but then again, sometimes they have it sectioned off for a certain amount of people. So I don't know what they
roughly
sectioned it off for.
14,000 to 15,000 for a pro wrestling show.
All right. Well, again, that's horrendous. Like there's no positive way to spin that type of drop. But as far as Warner Brothers Discovery is concerned, I would imagine they're more concerned about the kind of numbers they do on TBS tomorrow night.
Which is going to be a problem because Biden's addressing the nation because he's dropping out of the race tomorrow. That's happening at 8 p.m., yes.
I'm sure Tony Khan was thrilled when that news dropped. Although my guess is Blood and Guts is not starting until 9. So I don't know that it'll necessarily, or if it was going to start at 8, it's not starting at 8 now. So I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. I don't know if there's any sports games or anything big tomorrow night other than that, but I'm not even sure the numbers are going to improve from what they were this past week. I hope they do for their sake, but it's touching 800K is very difficult for them. They couldn't do it last week. The last time they did a little over 800 was when they put the CM Punk Jack Perry footage up on there, and that was in April. That was like right after WrestleMania. So clearly the numbers are down, but whatever their benchmark is, whatever that key demo number they need that number to be, it was up last week. If it's comparable this week, I would imagine that they'll be satisfied with that. It's not going to be a case where this number this week is going to tank, any potential deal they make. I think the cake is baked, and there's a lot of rumors and reports going around right now. I know BJ Bethel was the one for SE Scoops who came out with the news about a day or two ago, claiming that they have an agreement in principle. So nothing is official, nothing has been signed, but they had a deal or a framework of a deal in mind, and it's just a matter of kind of finalizing it. And then today, Sean Ross Sapp over on Fightful Select had a different report, which is that there is no deal done, but they're hopeful that one will get done shortly. And then I guess Tony Khan is going to be meeting with David Zaslav, who is the head of Warner Brothers Discovery. I believe they're in Paris, or they're going to be in Paris this week for the Olympics, and they're going to have a meeting. But that's it. I didn't see any details about this being a meeting to finalize any kind of a deal. They're just going to have some FaceTime together. And that flies in the face of a lot of what we've been hearing, because according to Bethel, this past weekend is where the exclusive negotiating window expired, where technically Tony Khan could start negotiating with other partners. Now, I don't get the impression he wants to do that. He wants to stay where he is. He wants to stay right where he is. He wants a relationship with them so they can get their content on Max. And I think that's something he's wanted to do for a very long time. I think that's one of the reasons why he, if not the reason, he resisted those conversations with the CW network a couple of years ago when they were interested in Ring of Honor and putting a Ring of Honor show on the CW. NXT is going to be starting there in October. There could be a Ring of Honor show on there right now. Tony Khan said, well, it didn't feel like the right time. Well, it didn't feel like the right time because he wants to go all in with Warner Brothers Discovery. He's putting all of his eggs in that basket. So nobody is hoping more than he is that this deal gets done as soon as possible. But based on this new report from Fightful, I don't think we're going to be hearing anything, probably not in the next week or two, because it doesn't sound like anything is really finalized or agreed upon yet. Yeah,
well, the Olympics are taking place this coming week, so I know Raw's preempted because of it.
Well, it's pushed to Sci-Fi. It's not preempted.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Other sources with the situation with the AEW Warner Brothers deal, close to the situation, say that an offer has likely been made, but stress that there is no agreement in place as of today. Fightful had heard that there was an offer months ago from Warner Brothers to AEW, but it hadn't agreed upon and still being negotiated. I know, Jason, you and I predicted a number several episodes back on TNT. Now, obviously, with the news that the pay-per-views and all their major shows will be bundled and moved over to Max potentially, what do you think this rumored deal is looking like? I mean, I seen our old friend Andrew Baydala mentioned something about 600 to 700 million as far as an overall package for 5 years. Do you see them going that high for AEW? Because I know the news coming out of this week was that Warner Brothers matched Amazon's one of Amazon's tiered offers for the NBA. So how much is that going to be something that plays into the factor of AEW getting potentially that much money?
Oh, it may factor into that a lot. We're talking 1.8 billion. And that would be for their C package. It's not even their A package or their B package for the NBA. And I don't know how that's going to turn out. There's all kinds of talk about how the NBA may reject it, even though they have the right to match because, they feel that Amazon has more, visibility than Max does, which I believe it does. So for all we know, that could end up litigated in court. But they're trying hard to hold on to the NBA, and they're talking about a $1.8 billion package, which is a lot more than what they wanted to pay. So that could have an effect on the AEW deal. I think that's why Tony Khan really would love to wrap this up as quickly as possible. 700 million would surprise me. When this year started, I think what I was figuring or predicting, and this was back in January, and there were a lot of people then who were saying, the idea of them getting a renewal, let alone more money, like, that's not going to happen. And I was like, well, actually, I think it will. And I was thinking maybe along the lines of 300 to 400 million over a period of maybe 4 to 5 years. I'm going to stick to that. 500, maybe pushing it. I'm still thinking maybe in that 300 to 400 million range. If they could pull off something like 6 or 7, then I mean that would be fantastic, and they would be set for probably a good while as far as that goes.
I'm sure that will create engaging discussion on social media.
Oh my God, it's gonna be a fucking shit show, is what it's gonna be. I can only imagine what the discourse will be when it comes to that. Once we find out how much the deal is for, but the point is, there's going to be a deal. I would be shocked for them not to get a deal done, and a long-term deal too. I think in the 3 to 5 year range, that will set AEW up for the next few years. Because once they get that deal, if they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're getting more than what they're getting now, which is really the only deal that would make sense if they were going to get more, that's going to set them up to stay competitive as far as free agents are concerned. It's going to set them up, I think, to maybe even make some production changes and be able to do things that they need money for. And we've talked also about the fact that, you know, I mean, as far as the money that Tony Khan is spending on his talent budget, it's not sustainable if the money is not there. So there's going to be a lot of people potentially who could lose their jobs, you know, if they don't get a really good deal. So this is this is the most important deal in the history of this company. And I do think they're going to stay. I do think they're going to get more money. And I think a lot of people are going to have egg on their face who just assume because the ratings are down and they're not happy with creative, that means AEW's in the mud and they're going to, you know, be dead within a year. These people don't know what they're talking about. I think that there will be a deal. I wish I could tell you an exact number, but I'll stick to my maybe 300 to 400 million number. If I had to kind of throw a prediction out there, and there has to be, I would think there has to be a streaming component to it. Because me personally, I would love it if the pay-per-views all ended up on Max.
Well, me too. I think every fan wants to see that happen. But my question to you is, if it's in the $300 to $400 million range, like you are predicting, and this is a prediction, don't you think that they would lose money? Because let's consider on average, AEW pay-per-views is where they make a lot of money. Tony Khan loves his pay-per-views. They usually do anywhere between 120,000, 150,000 buys. Now they got 9 of them instead of doing the 4 annually. They're going to need a huge chunk of money to kind of offset that. No, so don't you think 300 to 400 million is kind of low?
I mean, it's lower than he would probably want it to be, but the belief is that right now, I think it was it 45 million a year? I think.
Yeah, so 40 to 45, I think it was, yeah.
All right, so let's figure 45. I mean, this is bad. I'm doing math late at night, but let's say
after a Jack and Coke.
Yeah, this is bad. But let's say 45 million a year, and I want to say it was 3 years. Was it 3 years with an option for a fourth? Which
That's what I remember hearing. Yes.
Okay. So it would be higher. It wouldn't be radically higher. They're not going to get $1 billion. Like, this is not going to be like a WWE media rights package. Ideally, yeah, it would be somewhere up closer in the 500 or 600 million range. But I don't think that Tony Khan would walk away from a $400 million offer from David Zaslav. Especially if it had, let's say, a streaming component to it where they could have the AEW library, they could house the Ring of Honor library. You know, maybe first run Ring of Honor shows would be on there. The problem is I don't get the impression that Warner Brothers Discovery gives a shit about Ring of Honor.
Why would they?
Exactly. I mean, they have never cared about Ring of Honor. And that there's a reason why Ring of Honor does not air on TNT or TBS, because they don't care. They didn't even want Chris Jericho to appear at Final Battle 2 years ago when he was the Ring of Honor World Champion. So it's hard for me to envision them being a big part of this deal, but I think in a perfect world, that's what Tony Khan would be able to get. And I think that's why he resisted talking to the CW a couple of years ago, which he did confirm that happened. So yeah, I mean, it's not the best deal or the best package they could get for maximum amount of money, but it would be better than what they have now. Do they maybe go less years for a little less money than he would like to take instead of a 5-year deal? Is it a 3-year deal? I don't know, but this is a company of Warner Brothers Discovery that is laden with debt. Let's not forget that. They have laid off thousands of workers. They just laid off another 1,000, I think, a week or two ago. And now they're trying to keep the NBA, and they're going to throw a lot more money at that package if they get it than they wanted to spend in the first place. So Tony Khan may not be in a position to get exactly what he wants. And then he has to weigh, okay, do we just take what we can get, or do I take my chances and try to go somewhere else and shop it around, which I can't imagine he's going to want to do.
I don't see him doing that. I think that's a huge mistake.
And it's huge risk.
Yeah.
Especially if they're willing to keep them on and pay them more, just not exactly what they would like to make. I mean, again, it's a huge risk, and I'm not sure he's necessarily willing to take that risk.
My next question in regards to this this TV deal, imminent, supposedly, how do you feel the company's going to change, if at all they change, with this amount of money that they are supposedly seeking from Warner Brothers Discovery? Do you see any true change to the overall presentation of the show? Do we get another hour of Dynamite? Do we move it to from 2 hours to 3 hours? Do they eliminate Rampage? Do they enhance Collision in some way? How do you see the company changing if they are going to be coming into this type of money?
I don't think that the 3-hour blocks they were doing there for a while were just a matter
accidental. They were done for a reason.
Yeah, of convenience at the time, or accidental. I think there's a chance that they could start running 3-hour blocks on a regular bit, which I hope they don't. Just
that's all
me
we need.
Personally,
another 8 to 11 fucking show on Wednesday night.
Oh my God. Yeah, I really hope that doesn't happen. Rampage to me is a completely useless show. I mean, some people might enjoy it. It's a chance for some people to get. You're
gonna upset the Tribalist, bro. You can't say that.
Well, what else is new? I mean, I do that on a regular basis anyway. Why should this be any different? But yeah, Rampage is useless, and I certainly don't have time in my week for it. If you do, then great. Hey, more wrestling, right? But people who think that, and I've had people ask, well, why don't they just take Rampage and make it Ring of Honor? You know, just give it an hour of Ring of Honor on Friday nights. And again, it's because they don't want Ring of Honor on their network. And you can't just take Rampage, which is an AEW show, and make it Ring of Honor. No different than you can't just take a WWE show, this Netflix deal, $5 billion. I got an email a couple weeks ago, and somebody was like, well, do you think the WWE, now would be a good time for them to relaunch WCW? And they could take Raw and give it to WCW. And I said, no, because Netflix just paid $5 billion for Raw, not for a brand that's been dead for 25 years. So these people are paying for something. You can't just take it and change it to what you want it to be. So I don't see that happening where Ring of Honor necessarily comes to TV. I do think we'll see more 3-hour blocks. I think we're going to see a lot more synergy between the two sides. I think that's one of the things Warner Brothers Discovery seems to really love about AEW, whether it's Shark Week or House of the Dragon or any of these other integrations with like Max properties where they kind of promote them. Remember they had the House of the Dragon promotion back in June, and they did like Kill Switch against Bryan Danielson, right? It was like Dragon against Dragon or something. I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see a streaming component. I don't know that production is necessarily going to change radically. I think they brought in Mike Mansouri, from WWE, or formerly with WWE, and there were some production changes they made. I don't see anything radically changing to the presentation of the shows, but I think it'll be a lot of little things. I think we'll get more pay-per-views. I think that they're probably going to add another 1 or 2, next year. They may get to a point where they have 1 a month, which I think, honestly, 8 or 9 is the sweet spot.
Well, if they go to Max, I don't mind it being 12 because we don't have to pay fucking $50 a pop. So.
But I'm just saying from a creative perspective, I don't know that they need 12, because sometimes it's better to have a little more time to promote some big matches. Yeah. So, again, 9 maybe is like kind of the magic number there. But I do think we're going to get more pay-per-views, even if it's another 1 or 2 shows annually. Could there be more shows? They used to have a reality show. Are we going to get more programming like that? That's kind of, it supplements the existing shows on the network. We have Roads to the Top, and then what was the other one that, the more recent one from last year?
AEW Backstage, or whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, it was something like that. So I think we might see more programming like that as well.
Whatever.
All access.
We saw behind the scenes, everything happened.
Right. And Britt Baker became like the villain, I think, out of that show, out of it. Yeah. So I think we may see more content like that as well.
It's going to be interesting. Listen, AEW is here to stay, guys. They're going to get paid, whether or not it's what Tony Khan wants. I think it's going to be great for everybody. And the discourse on social media will be worse than ever. So anticipate it. But one last thing in regards to AEW. I know I watched Collision because I was genuinely curious about what the overall presentation would look like with AEW Collision now taking residency at the Esports Arena in the Dallas, Arlington area. And they had roughly about 1,100, 1,200 people. It was a very intimate look. They were lively. They were loud. It reminded me of what NXT was when they held the black and gold inside Full Sail. But obviously this was a little bit more upscale. I love the look, Jason. I don't know what you thought of it, but I would be more open, and I said this on Twitter, I would be more open to seeing them do something like this a lot more often. I feel like the show itself, it is the B show. They don't hide the fact that it is the B show. They don't get the ratings that Dynamite does. It's a little bit more free-for-all on Collision. We see a little bit of Rampage and a little bit of Ring of Honor kind of mixed in with the AEW stuff on Collision, which doesn't genuinely interest me. I wish they would make it more of a B show in line with Dynamite. But for what they did in the setup, I thought it was perfect. And I think them doing that a little bit more often on Saturday night is a great test. And I feel like they should be doing it a little bit more often. What do you think?
I thought it was a good look. I wasn't raving about it or anything. I thought that it was a unique look for the show. I certainly don't mind them trying that more often. It kind of reminds me in a way of what WWE tried with Shotgun Saturday Night. And when they had that show back in 97, it was very unique for the time. And they used to run nightclubs around New York City. So these very small, intimate venues. And they ran the Mirage nightclub, and they even went to Texas once, and I remember this bar, like Denim and Diamonds. It's the night where Terry Funk just started cussing everybody out. But they would go to these smaller venues, and there was one night, I think it was Webster Hall, and Bret Hart wrestled Mankind on the show. And Mankind was chasing some of the pole dancers around and scaring them, and they were screaming. So that stands out. Undertaker tombstoning Triple H on the escalator at Penn Station. So this is not exactly the same thing, but just those intimate, smaller venues sometimes can make for a more fun show. I have many times over the last couple of years floated the idea of AEW running a show from the Hammerstein Ballroom. And I'm kind of surprised that they haven't already tried it. Somebody brought that up to Tony Khan. It might have been comicbook.com last week. And he was asked about that. And he gave, the typical Tony Khan stock answer. Oh, it's a great idea. And he would, love to consider it. And hopefully there's a chance that happens, because you could take 2,000 people and put them in a kind of a smaller venue like that, and it can make for a really energetic, fun show. Now imagine doing that on a weekly basis and going around to different places. This is different because this is a residency where they're in one place. They can't stay in that one place forever. That's like running the PC every week.
Yeah.
So this residency is fine. They're going to run there for the duration, I think, in August until they get to All In. But, they can't stay in that esports arena for an entire year. You would have to take the act on the road. And I don't know what they're getting paid. I think they are getting paid for running this venue. They reached some kind of a deal. If they could replicate that in other places around the country and run these smaller, intimate places, or these unique places, that could be something that separates it from Dynamite and kind of gives it its own identity. And I just think it would make for a fun show. So I liked it, and I'd love to see them continue to try it, but branch out a little bit and try it in other places. The only other thing I would love to not see anymore is, and I mentioned this on my show on Sunday, I don't know what's going on with Collision, but this is now the third straight week where somebody has gotten injured on this show. And it happened 3 weeks ago. Riho broke her arm. She fractured her wrist doing a simple dive out to the floor. Last week, Dalton Castle got kneed in the head, right in the side of the head by Roderick Strong, got knocked out. And he wasn't concussed, but whatever the injury is, he needs surgery, and he's gone for the rest of the year. And then on Saturday, you said you watched the show. I don't know if you saw the match, but it was Sheeta and Sky Blue. And Sheeta came off. She was on the middle rope on the outside. Just a simple splash.
It was nothing.
And it was nothing. But that's what happens in wrestling. And just, I guess, the way that Sky Blue's ankle was positioned, and she broke her ankle. So she's going to be out for a while now. So there's some weird kind of, I don't know. Somebody could have put a curse on, maybe Punk put a curse on the show or something. I don't know, but hopefully they can shake that off because, we're going to be going into this weekend. And if you're on that lineup for Collision on Saturday, just take extra care because there's something going on with that show and it's not good.
No, while Jason was talking, guys, yes, there was an ad that played. I had a browser open. I don't know what the fuck that was. So if you guys heard some weird reverb on the stream, it was an open tab on my PC that had an ad play out of nowhere. So I quickly deaded that, and my camera keeps going out because my air conditioner is on power saving mode, so it kind of went off, and now my camera is overheating. So if you see my black screen, that's the reason why.
The only thing missing now is another bug.
Something's flying around here, I'm sure.
That's the only thing missing.
But yes, I do feel like the residency, it does get old quick. And I feel like if they want to start running smaller venues for Dynamite, I would be open to that too. We don't need to be running fucking 20,000 seaters and fitting 2,000 people. I think it's ridiculous. So hopefully they get that squared away. But I did quite like the look. And for at least the last 4 weeks before we get to All In, I think it's a good move. So
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting into your super chats in just a second. I want to thank you guys for showing up tonight. I do not feel my best, but I appreciate you guys being here and powering us through tonight's show, man. Thank you very much. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. We hit the goal of 750. We are at 800 likes. Can we get to 850? That would be great. If you guys have not hit the thumbs up, please do so. Super chats are open. They will remain open. Get them on in. Any questions, comments, and concerns for Jason and I, we will answer them in just a bit. Follow us on social. Subscribe to our YouTube. Everything is linked down below. And please make sure you guys go check out all the content that both of us have put up on the channel. It's great stuff, man. We're live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. This coming Friday, we will not be live. We'll be in Queens for House of Glory, High Intensity.
Well, we'll be live. We'll be live on Triller TV.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll be live in a different way. And then, obviously, we got SummerSlam coming up next weekend. So it's going to be a busy week and a half. Make sure you guys get them on in. Let's start with Scott Woodford with 17 months. Going to Raw on the 29th. And Summer the same week. Any advice? Hi, guys. Any advice for going to Raw? Yeah, order a cold beverage and enjoy the show, man. You've been subjected to really good stuff over the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks. So, Raw's been good. Much better than SmackDown. Don't go to SmackDown. Boring. Edward with a $4.99. I don't think Triple H is a racist, but I'm disappointed at how he's booking the tag team and women's divisions after the way he booked both in NXT. Yeah, that's a problem that we both discussed on this show just last week. The tag team division and the women's divisions, man, they are sorely lacking. There's a lot of fluff in both divisions, but, they went through a couple of injuries. Rhea was out, Becky was out, Asuka's out all at the same time. They're just getting Rhea back. Becky's going to be back eventually. Asuka's going to be back eventually. But the tag team division, yeah, I've been saying it for years. It needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and splitting those titles at WrestleMania did not help.
No. Kevin Dunn's Beaver with the $2 super chat. Liv Morgan's shorts should be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
I have a feeling that many years from now, when they do season 16 of Hidden Treasures, they're going to send Lita and Mick Foley on the road to look for Liv Morgan's booty shorts.
Oh my God!
And they're gonna bring them into the warehouse and they're gonna bring them home.
Kevin Dunn's Beaver, thank you, man. Sharing the sentiment of a lot of young males in that demographic. I loved last night's Raw. 10-star show, according to several on social media.
And probably some females, too.
Yeah. MGM Ballin with a $9.99. I probably sound like a broken record now, but my thoughts and prayers are with you and Bacardi. Love you, JD. Thank you for OTS and TNT. Thank you, Solo, as well. And how can I forget to thank Liv Morgan's shorts? Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Ballin. Appreciate it. Joey Jojo Jr. with a $5 super chat. Just hear me out on this. Dom turns on both Rhea and Liv And at SummerSlam aligns with Vicky Guerrero. He chooses a mom over a mommy. No thank you.
No.
Why are we bringing Vicky Guerrero back to television? Please don't put that into existence ever.
Well, it's a callback to the custody of Dominic ladder match.
Yeah.
In 2005, and we could leave it in the past.
Cake with a $2 super chat. Punk's not winning at Cleveland. He never does. That's a good point.
You know what? That's a great
point.
That's a great point. The streak continues. The streak continues, whether it's wrestling or MMA. He does not do well in that city.
Angela Lago with a $200 super chat earlier in the stream at 8:53 p.m. Angel, thank you, brother, for your generosity. Jason and I really appreciate the bomb earlier on the show. Dom Joseph with the 199. Who's the GOAT of House of Glory? Well, you got it. I mean, you can't talk about GOAT status and not talk about Amazing Red. Right? I would say, honestly, that we both hate him, honestly. I'd say Charles Mason. Charlie's a great fucking wrestler. Always shows up to work, has the best matches on the show all the time.
You're not going to hear me praise him because I've been kidnapped. I've had a plastic bag placed over my head. So I'm going to keep my comments to myself on.
Dom, thank you, brother. Michelle with a $5 super chat. What if they have Drew Punk end in a no contest? And after Bad Blood, who does each man move on to? And who would you trade to Raw to get Sammy and Jay to SmackDown? It will not be a no contest. I think it'll be a fuck finish with Drew winning. After Bad Blood, I think Rollins and Punk feud with each other, honestly. I think they feud with each other going into 2025. And a trade, we could do a trade. I'm assuming we'll do a trade.
I don't know why we don't. We need to get more. I'm not saying they have to happen on a regular basis, but we should have Aldis and Pierce come together. Yeah. And again, it can be by request of Jey Uso. Please do me this favor. Again, I don't know how the story is going to play out, but I would hope that they utilize trades between the GMs now that we have two formal GMs for both shows.
Bobby's World 2110 with a $5 super chat. Hey JD, very sorry to hear about Bacardi. My love and prayers to you, brother. Thank you, Bobby. LC Killer 17 with a $2 super chat. Everyone wants Liv Morgan. Sorry, Mina Shirakawa. Well, I mean, if you're gonna hold a gun to my head, who am I choosing? I think I'm choosing Liv. I'm gonna go with Liv on that one.
Well, Mina went home. Unfortunately, Mina's not here anymore. So.
Yeah, Mina went home.
Yeah.
Cake with a $2 super chat. People are like, AEW will never see 2 million. 2 million what? 2 million viewers? So what? They were never expected to hit 2 million. I don't know what you're expecting.
They've never hit 2 million in their existence. So why would they? I mean, even when they had Punk, they didn't hit 2 million. So I don't know why people would expect them to hit it now.
I could probably count on one hand how many times they hit 1 million.
Well, they used to do it on a pretty routine basis there for a while, but not much more than that.
Regardless, it's not making my interest in the show greater or less. So I don't. A lot of people make the ratings a big deal. Not me. I only use it when it's a vehicle to really highlight some of the problems that they have, like blood and guts. I mean, it's an issue. I mean, we're not going to ignore those issues. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the ratings have declined and the attendance has declined. Why? Nobody wants to answer those questions. Phil with a $9.99 and a $4.99. Roman and Jimmy, I feel, should come back together, and it should be after the Cody solo match. I agree. Cody needs to win clean. You can have Randy and KO there, even the odds with the bloodline, but that's all. I would not have Randy there. I think Randy should hide in the shadows and wait until the time is right to strike Cody for being a dummy and sending him into battle against a bloodline 4-on-2. Phil also says, and who knows, maybe that's when Randy turns on Cody by RKOing Cody and turning heel for a match at Berlin and Bad Blood. And when do you see the turn happening? Any right moment for it to happen?
I don't think it has to be a specific event. Just a matter of when do we get Orton back on TV? Is it that first SmackDown after SummerSlam? Do they keep him out for most of August and bring him back after Berlin? Because to me, I don't know what the plan is for Cody in Berlin. That's the whole thing. Do they go right into Randy right away, or is there another opponent for him and then coming out of Berlin? do the RKO out of nowhere, and then they can, the remainder of the fall, you can play that out. So I don't think it has to be any specific time, but like I would imagine that when Randy comes back, given that he was there defending Cody and Cody, couldn't, but he didn't do anything to help him. And when he comes back, he's not going to be very happy with Cody. So it should happen not long after that. I just don't know when they bring him back.
Should be interesting. I think 2 matches I think we'll see at Berlin. Priest versus Gunther rematch. And I think we get Breakker Dragunov for the IC title.
I think that would be a fantastic place to do that match.
There you go.
And you're going to have a lot of people who are big Ilya Dragunov fans who are going to be very upset.
I know. Trust the process. He ain't going nowhere.
No.
Who do we got? Cake with the $2 super chat. Eldon, any chance Triple H does a swerve page with Randy and Cody? He could. There's 2 guys on the roster that are going to embody Swerve and Page. It's those 2 guys for sure. LC Killer with a $2 super chat. Sheldon Cooper for the AEW World Championship.
He's their MVP.
He is their biggest draw, yeah.
That's it.
I mean, MJF might have something to say about that, but MJF went on to say that Dynamite is boring without him. It's hard to disagree with him.
It was definitely missing something with him gone.
Yes.
Yes.
Chris with a $9.99. What's up, JD and Jason? Great TNT as always. If the Bloodline is going to completely take over SmackDown for the next few months, bring back 2009 Menace Randy Orton versus Cody for the WWE Championship. I like a menacing Randy Orton.
Well, the RKO is always going to get a pop. So if he really wanted to be a heel, he would ditch the RKO and go back to the punt kick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's what he was using in 09.
Who do we got here? Velocifactor with a $4.99. Hey, guys. It's my birthday. Every time I see "Hey guys," I think Jericho for some reason. I say it in
That's
the
why they're
way.
saying it. I get that all the time now. Hi guys. Hi guys. I hear that in my nightmares.
It's my birthday. I'm curious if you guys have been keeping an eye on Obafemi. How long would you keep him in NXT, and how would you book him? Happy birthday, number 1 Velocifactor. Thank you for joining us. Obafemi, yes, I think Obafemi is quite the talent. I do not think he's anywhere close to being ready for the main roster, but I would say, listen, Braun Breaker spent 3 years down there. I'm not saying everybody has to spend 3 years down there. To me, in my opinion, I've watched a lot of NXT in the past. You know when someone's ready for the main roster. You just feel it. Watching the show, you just feel it. I think Breaker was ready for the main roster fucking a year before his 3rd year. So it's different with everybody. But I think Obafemi is still rather green, honestly. I don't know what Jason thinks about him.
Yeah, I don't think you bring him up yet. I think you keep him down there for at least another year.
Ali with a $9.99. Hey, JD, I know you said earlier about the match between Chad Gable and Uncle Howdy not happening at SummerSlam, but we can still get it on the next Monday after SummerSlam or at Bash at Berlin. We could. I just think SummerSlam would be a great place for Uncle Howdy to make his pay-per-view debut as this new leader of the Wyatt Six, just like Bray debuted The Fiend at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think waiting until Berlin to do the first match is too long.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of TV you got to fill up between now and then just to wait to get to that first match. What they could do is they could book Bo Dallas on TV against Chad Gable, and maybe he loses.
Yeah.
But then he comes back and does the Howdy Gable match in Berlin, and then Howdy gets the win.
And keep in mind, guys, pay-per-views now for WWE, they've been doing the 7 p.m. start time, so if they want to add an 8th match, it's not going to be that bad because 7 to 11, I think that's a nice cutoff. 4 hours is my absolute limit for a pay-per-view. When it starts exceeding fucking 15 matches in 6 hours like Tony Khan, that's when we have a problem. Ali, thank you, brother. Jose Perez with a $4.99. I can't believe Bacardi has been here since WrestleMania 18. That's an Undertaker-like streak. Thoughts and prayers, JD. Big ups to Solid Monster. As always, TNT for life. Thank you, Jose. Yes. I got her back in 2002. She's 22 years old.
The first brand split.
There you go. Mm-hmm. She's moved, I'd say, I moved 6 times since then. She's been with me since then, yeah. Wow. Black Wolf Inc. This is a question that Jason probably might answer better than me, but I already gave you my opinion on this, Black Wolf. Hey, JD, I sent the DM to HOG's Instagram page. I never got a response. Should I send another one? I really would like to help out for the show. So, Jason, Black Wolf wants to know, he wants to help set up the ring or help with high intensity on Friday, and he wants to reach out to someone in House of Glory, and I told him to send Brian XL, who leads the Instagram page, a message via privately on Instagram, but he didn't get a reply back. What should he do?
You can always send another message if you want to, but my suggestion would be if you go to hogwrestling.net, if you go to the bottom of the page, there should be either an email address or a contact form there, and I would try that.
There you go. Hopefully that works out for you, Black Wolf. If not, maybe we'll see you there anyway. Basic with the 16 months, MVP and Rikishi have something in common. They both need to shut up. Tired of hearing them whine. Listen, man, everybody complains in some way, shape, or form. I complain, Jason complains, but Rikishi's going to back his son in whichever way he feels is best. So how can we say he's wrong? Feels that way, he feels that way. Well-rounded Leo with a $4.99. I don't know if it's racism, but the black men on the main roster, we are booked to be with goofy, funny characters or thugs. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing less of that, guys, here in this new administration. Vince was definitely a proponent of that, but, you know, it's, you know, I
mean, Bobby Lashley certainly didn't fit that bill.
No.
Even with this most recent stuff, he was coming out, he was dressed up to the nines in the suit.
Yep.
But I mean, is there a history of that not being the case? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Basic with a $4.99. So what does everyone think of Hologram's AEW debut? It was in the notes. I kind of glanced past that just because I didn't really feel it was pertinent, but I'll let you go ahead.
Had a great opponent. He had a great opponent.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, you're going to put him in the ring with anybody. You put him in there with Gringo Loco. We know him well.
He is very good.
You're going to be in the ring with anybody. Gringo's a great person to be in the ring with.
I mean, listen, he was impressive, but my question to everybody is, what makes him stand out more than a Vikingo or a Ray Phoenix, you know? Or anybody that Tony Khan's already brought in that does that type of shit. It's very tough to invest in someone like that when there are others on that roster that do what he does better.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me in a way of Axiom in NXT. Remember when, was it Axiom when he first debuted? They were doing, when he would make his entrance, it was like the blur effect. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, he's obviously a talented guy, Aramis, I think it is, but it's not going to be a money-making gimmick.
I'm going to read this from the chat. Melees in the chat says, JD needs to have the Learning Tree super chat interrupt him constantly 30 times 12 for Solo the other night is hard to beat. You had 30 fucking Learning Tree super chats?
Yeah, that was on Jesus. How I didn't go insane, I'll never know.
Oh my God.
That was on Friday night. There were, from start to finish, 30 learning trees. So yeah, that was something. That was something. Thankfully, I have a pause button, so like I could control when they're on and off. But like still, like 30 of them was like, wow. So that's why when I say I hear that in my nightmares, like, you know, I am the learning tree. Thanks, guys. Like
so what you're saying is that you are in full support of the Learning Tree gimmick?
No, I got the Learning Tree gimmick over more than Chris Jericho did, is what I'm saying.
Oh, Chris, I don't know, man. Whatever. I don't know. I said on Wednesday, I think we're going to get another Stadium Stampede match with Jericho and Crew versus Samoa Joe and Hook. That is if Samoa Joe's ready to come back. I know he's filming that Twisted Metal. Yeah. So we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan does it at Wembley. Basic with the $4.99. So what does everyone... Oh, I just read that. Thanks, Basic. Brendan Watson with the $1.99. How's Bacardi doing? I think she's sleeping behind me. I hope she is anyway. I will check after the stream is over, but she was moving around and meowing before, so... Arabian Night 2000 with a $6.99. You think one of the men's tag belts will be defended at SummerSlam? Hasn't been one title match on a PLE since the split at WrestleMania. Ridiculous. Motor City Machine Guns, stay away. Well, I do think that they will end up there. I'm excited to see them there if that's the case. And yes, I'd love to see a tag team title match at SummerSlam. They are building the Bloodline to battle DIY, but I do think in typical Triple H fashion that will take place on either a go-home show or they may save it for Bash in Berlin. Who the fuck knows? I think they're loaded for SummerSlam already.
We're definitely not getting Finn Balor and JD McDonough defending their titles at SummerSlam.
No.
So if we get one, there's a much better chance of us getting a SmackDown tag team title match, where right now it's not looking that good. And that's ridiculous. I agree. The fact that you have 2 sets of tag team titles and this is your second biggest show of the year and not even one of them would be defended, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not in agreement with that. The tag team division needs a major overhaul or some work. Basic with a $4.99. MJF versus Osprey was a great match. Those two told a story in the ring and brought it. I watched the match twice. Yeah, I think people who shit on it for the sake of shitting on it, Jason and I went over it pretty well earlier. Bunch of low life, no life losers. Alex with a $10 super chat. Brother JD and Solo, who do you guys think will hand Jacob Fatu his first official loss in a singles match? When do you think it will happen? Not for a very long time.
Not for a while, and if I had to take a guess, I could see it being Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Basic with a $4.99. I'm glad TK opened Dynamite with Osprey and MJF. He wanted to legitimize the ratings instead of relying on the Big Bang Theory. He's trying. Well, I mean, he almost had to, because Swerve was wrestling Okada and Swerve is your world champion and Swerve should be in the main event. So,
well, not even that, just the finish they did with Darby, descending from the ceiling. I mean, that's a classic Nitro-esque show closing moment.
Yeah. He had his back turned to everybody on the ramp, though. Did you see that? He came down backwards.
Well, he came down backwards, but here's what I want to know. Why, what was the purpose of having that one segment the week before, where they went backstage for 30 seconds and showed him beating up Brandon Cutler? Why not just save it as a surprise for the end of the show last week?
That's a good point. I don't think they use their full brain capacity, honestly, over there.
No, I think they're just very he's very in the moment.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense to me. What was the purpose of that segment? I look back on it, I'm like, everybody knew Darby was coming out at the end of the show. It would have had more impact if he never would have been on the show at all until he descended from the ceiling and we found out who the 5th member of Team AEW is.
Peter Pacheco with a $5 super chat. When will we see you in the ring? Sap had a match last week in GCW against Effie. Probably never. Jason's probably more likely to get in the ring than I am, being that his position is commissioner.
Well, the commissioner invariably will end up pissing somebody off, so you're probably right about that. But right now, no. The answer is no. And for your sake and everyone's sake, I think it should probably stay that way.
Yeah. I think the most that I've had done was Mason punched me in the face and Sami Callihan shoved me down after I made a botch interviewing him.
Well, Mason threatened to put his hands on me, and then I reminded him about who I am, and he thought better of it. So sometimes I have to flex my authority around just to put people in their place, but at some point that may change. We'll see.
Arabian Night 2000 with a $6.99. Last 4 weeks of Raw, we've got an average of 35 minutes of wrestling on a 3-hour show. You guys think WWE needs to find a better balance of story and in-ring on TV? Yes, I do. But listen, I said this for the last couple of weeks, guys. The story that they're telling on Monday Night Raw is very good, so at least for the time being, I'm okay with it. But yes, I do think that we need to see a little bit more balance of wrestling on the show, yes.
Yeah, I mean, especially some of these women's matches that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's almost like they're reverting back to a bygone era where, they're coming out and wrestling for 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And a lot of short matches. I'm not saying they all have to be long, but yeah, it's been noticeable, and they need to strike a better balance.
I mean, Chelsea Green and Bianca Belair on Friday night went 90. I don't even think they went 90 seconds. I think it went 1 minute.
They didn't even go 90 seconds. I don't think it ended with a roll-up.
Ridiculous.
I mean, Bianca needed a roll-up to beat Chelsea Green. I mean, what are we doing here?
Based Beerus with a $2 super chat. No message.
Hey, Based Beerus, what's going on, brother?
McNeil 99 with a $4.99. Do you guys think High Chief will take the place of Tribal Chief with a new lay and Rock to reclaim the family throne? Probably. Depends on how they introduce The Rock back. Do they align Rock with Roman and have him be the fifth man on the OG bloodline? Because that's the last time we saw Rock on TV, him align with Roman. Where does Hikuleo, where does Hikuleo fit in? I don't know.
I mean, Tala Tonga.
Tala Tonga, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know if Rock is going to come right back and go after Cody. Like we just don't know what his primary objective is going to be when he comes back. If they're going to go to Rock and Roman, then yeah, we'll get some progress in that story. But if they're going to hold off on that for 42 and do Rock and Cody at 41, then Rock will probably have his own thing going on.
Some people in the chat saying Jimmy Uso confirmed for SmackDown. I don't know where you guys are seeing this. What are you talking about?
What does that mean? 1302?
I don't know.
Is that the episode number?
That's what I thought it was. That's why I didn't really read it. It didn't make any sense. Chris, oh my God, Chris Faplander with a 199.
Oh, it's my old friend Chris Faplander.
I love it here. These reviews keep me moist. Jesus Christ.
God. If ever there was a TMI super chat.
Again.
Where were you, by the way, on Monday night? That's where Chris Faplander really would have made sense. On Monday night with everybody going crazy in the chat about Liv Morgan.
That's a good point. Listen, man, I don't know how to fucking pronounce your name, and I'm going to call you Spingucci as long as I see you in the chat, man. He says, great show, but number one butchers my name like you, JD. Who's number one?
Yeah, I don't know.
I could see why they butcher your name. I don't even know what the fuck it stands for. I got lost now. This Faplander, Spingucci, Rumpelmane with a 199. Rhea Ripley's feet.
Oh, boy. Rumpelmane is here.
Oh, my God.
Is here.
Mario's with a 199. Solo, it figures the SWAC on Maven. I doubt it. How about you?
I have no idea what you just said, but sure. Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
Oh, man, it's getting to that point in the night. Amanda Nicole with a 499. Another great show, just showing support to the top guys in the IWC. So sorry to hear about Bacardi. Thank you, Amanda. I guess we're more top guys than FTR now. Huh?
I'd say so. I mean, well, I would tell you to go ahead and tweet that to Dax, but I guess you wouldn't see it. Right?
No. Lewis with a 20. Thank you, brother. Great show, guys. JD, my thoughts and prayers to you and Bacardi. Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate you, man. Boots, $2 super chat. Is Ricochet making a surprise appearance at HOG? I don't know. This is the guy to talk to, but I would bet yes. I think he will be.
Well, if it was a surprise, I certainly wouldn't tell you. But look, Ricochet was the first ever House of Glory World Champion. So he's got history there. Nothing would surprise me.
Him versus Mike Santana for the HOG World Title. Sign me up.
Him versus anybody.
Everett Todd with a $2 super chat. What's up with AEW's merch? It sucks. I haven't bought an AEW shirt since, I don't know, when was the last time I bought a t-shirt there? I think I bought a CM Punk shirt. That was it.
I got a tank top that I sometimes wear. It's a black, it's got gray trim and a black tank top with the AEW, it's like, maybe like not Beach Blast, but like one of these summery shows they did. Yeah, and it's got that logo on it. That's the only. I mean, I have a Double or Nothing shirt from 2020 when everybody stayed home. On the back it says, you know, I watched from home. That's about it as far as the AEW merch for me.
Kel Mickens with a $4.99. I wish I could lick the taco dust off of Liv Morgan's shorts.
Oh my God.
Muy delicio. Have a great night.
Yeah, there were people on social media who were talking about how they wish they could drink her bath water. And like all this. Just
I heard someone in my chat said they wish they could drink Liv Morgan's bed sweat or something like that. Bed water.
Does she bed water? Really? Does she have a gland problem that I'm not aware of? I knew there was a catch. I knew there was something wrong with her. Does she sweat a lot in bed? Or well, maybe she does. Maybe,
who knows?
Maybe,
I don't know what she's
her and
doing.
Dirty Dom. I mean, come on. I mean, you know.
I don't know. Mr. Team bringing with a 199. What type of taco should I get? It's Taco Tuesday. Listen, man, I like a plain chicken. Honestly,
Can't go wrong with chicken.
ground beef. I like ground beef too. Eminem with a 233 super chat. Had to show some love. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Eminem.
Thank you.
Arabian Night with a 279. Montez could be a huge star. Charisma for days. Yes. I think he will get there eventually, but right now, not in the cards. Tony Brown with 199. Liv's ass rules. I think you share the sentiment of basically everybody in the chat, Tony Brown. Liv made waves on social media. Phil with a 999. I'm sorry about the whole situation with your fur baby. We all have to go through this with our pets, but it doesn't feel real until it happens. Thus, keep her safe and keep yourself in good spirits. Thank you, Phil. I am trying, brother. I'm trying very much. Chris with a 499. Question for Jason. What was the original plan for Orton Cena at No Mercy 2007? They were scheduled for a last man standing match, but Cena got hurt.
Yes, he tore his pec. So the question is, how much longer would that title reign have gone on? Because he had been champion, I think, at that point for, was it over a year? I always expected him to lose the belt on that show. So I think he would have dropped the championship to Orton. Last man standing match. He doesn't have to get pinned. And then he would have chased and he would have gotten the belt back.
Thank you, Chris, for the $4.99. David Thiering with a $20 super chat. Great show tonight, guys. Best of luck this weekend in House of Glory. JD, I don't know if you are aware of this, but Solo has made a cameo in a certain wrestler's theme. We all know. I'll let him explain more if he so chooses. Made a cameo in a theme?
Are you talking about the witchcraft video that I shared on social media the other day, where somebody did an AI version of me doing Joe Hendry's theme song?
Oh,
where they superimposed my head.
I did see that.
I mean, I imagine that's what he's talking about. Otherwise, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Listen, man, that theme song is sporadically stuck in my head for whatever God knows reason. I can't get it out. Just randomly just pops up whenever it feels like it. I don't know.
Brand new super chat, by the way. That's a great time to plug it. Brand new super chat. I had the new $150 one, where I sing the song to that video.
That sounds like a banger. But you know, believe it or not, I actually watched half of that show on Sunday night because of Joe Hendry. Mm-hmm. Very disappointed in him win the world title, but Nick Nemeth, I can't hate against Nick Nemeth, man. He's fucking great.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that they are saving the title win for Bound for Glory, which is like their big annual show, and you know, maybe they feel it'll be more impactful if he wins it one-on-one. But to me, like Nemeth, I mean, yeah, I have no issue, you know, with Nemeth winning the title, except that in that match they had Josh Alexander go heel and then eliminate Joe Hendry. So you would figure Alexander would win, and then maybe Alexander would drop it to him at Bound for Glory. But there's still time for that. I was surprised just because Nemeth, like 2 weeks ago, talked about how he had just suffered a partially torn labrum in his shoulder, and then he went and won the world title. I think that was the same injury that MJF had going into World's End, and then he ended up being gone for 6 months. So maybe he won't be champion for very long. Maybe Alexander gets it, and then ultimately drops it to Joe Hendry. I have to imagine that Hendry is going to win the title. I know some people thought maybe that means he's going to WWE full time, but he was on Jericho's podcast within the last week or two, and he said that he's got a while yet on his deal, so I don't think he's going anywhere.
That would be rather strange if he won the NXT title. I mean, it would probably net him a little bit more publicity, spotlight, but if he wins the NXT title, he's not winning the TNA World title. I mean, that would take away.
Why would he win the NXT title?
People were coming up with scenarios where he wrestles Ethan Page when they have that Worlds Collide show, because there's a rumor that it's actually going to happen. And that's the match that they may be doing.
But have they announced the Worlds Collide show officially, or is that just rumored?
No, it's just rumored.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll keep that in the rumor column right now. Yeah, that would be weird for him to... I can't imagine they have a non-contracted talent win their... I mean, I know it's NXT, but still, you know, win the NXT title. I mean, anything could happen. You never say never. I mean, look at the fact that they're even working together. but I would think there's a better chance of him winning the TNA title before he ever wins the NXT title.
David Thiering, $20 super chat. Great show tonight, guys. Best of luck this week in House of Glory. Actually, I just read that. I don't know what the fuck is going on, man. David, thank you. Base Beerus, $2 super chat. Theory and Miz both have wins over Cena at Mania. Yes. And Theory's win meant absolutely nothing. Miz,
yeah.
I mean, I guess he could. I mean, he's still gloating about it today. I mean, it is a big deal, but.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the only reason Miz won that match was to further the Cena Rock story. It had nothing to do with Miz. Yeah.
Mr. Team Bring It with a $4.99. Both of you guys are awesome. Thank you for what you guys do. Thank you, Mr. Team Bring It with the $4.99.
Thank you, sir.
Alex with a $10 super chat. Which member of the HOG roster do you think is the closest to being WWE main roster ready? Also, who would you pick to have a program with? Someone like Roman or Cody?
Yeah, you're really gonna make me say something nice about this guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
But, Mason is ready to be. I think he could be on TV tomorrow.
Yep.
For WWE, NXT, AEW, and you know what? I hope he is, because then I don't have to work with him anymore. So that'd be great. Get him out of there. Mission accomplished. I can retire at that point. That was really my main mission when I was appointed to this position.
Yeah.
I can't seem to get rid of this guy.
Also, who would you pick to have a program with? Someone like Cody or Roman? Is that a part of the same question? I'm not putting Mason in a feud with either of those guys.
No. You start them low, and they work their way up.
Monye with a $2 super chat. Who do you think TK has all? Why do you think TK has all of the WOC on ROH?
Women of color. Well, I would love to know why Athena is still stuck in Ring of Honor. It's a mystery to me how we see Mark Briscoe and we see the Kingdom, right? All those champions, Kyle Fletcher when he was the TV champion. Is there something in her contract that only permits her to have one appearance a year on AEW television? I can't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe she wants to be there. Who knows? I don't know.
I mean, it's one thing for her to want to be in Ring of Honor, but she refuses to be on AEW television. That's what I mean. It's not even okay, fine. She maybe wants to be in Ring of Honor, and I don't know that I'd buy that. But for her to not be able to make appearances on AEW TV the way all the other champions do, there's something going on there. I'm sorry. There's something going on there that we're not aware of.
Hollywood guy with a $5 super chat. Do you guys see Rhea losing control in the match versus Liv, causing Dom to save Liv? Maybe Rhea uses chairs to beat her.
No, I mean, Dom made it very clear on Monday. I hate you. You ruined my life. So, I mean, why would he feel compelled to jump to her aid? Plus, I mean, if she uses a chair, she's going to get disqualified anyway. She wants to get her belt back. She can't use a chair.
Yeah. True Crime Cult with a $3 super chat. Jimmy Uso confirmed for the SmackDown 1302. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. Yoey Spingusi is his name with a $1.99. He actually spelt it out. Yoey Spingusi. Okay, keep that in mind. I probably will forget that the next time we're here. M. Mills with a $5 super chat. No message. Thank you, M. Mills. Juan Castle with a $1.99. JD and Solomonster versus Denise and Conrad in a steel cage match. Book it. Sure.
Well, you people want to see me in the ring this badly. Maybe we can make some money with this.
Mr. Team Bringer with a $1.99. Do you trust TK to book the Hurt Business right? No. First of all, I think one oversight with Bobby Lashley in AEW. Remember, guys, Tony Khan does not book big men very well, so I would not trust the process there. So,
yeah, I mean, my God, look at. I mean, Killswitch has his little story going on where eventually, I'm sure he'll turn on Christian and the patriarchy, but he's just kind of been relegated to his little spot. Look at Lance Archer and Brian Cage over the years, and Hobbs. It's pretty bleak when it comes to a lot of the big guys.
David Thiering with a $20 super chat. You guys are correct. That was the Witchcraft AI theme song I was referring to earlier. I was disappointed also he didn't win the TNA World title. Can't wait for the super chat to be revealed on Solo's channel. Oh, boy.
It's up right now. I just added it yesterday. So, but again, it's like the song. So can't have it like the learning tree popping up every 5 seconds. So.
Oh, you get copyrighted with that?
No. It's just that it would just be annoying because it's like 30 seconds long. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Justin Toner with a $10 super chat. More teases of Stephanie Vaquer imminent arrival on NXT tonight. Roxanne versus Thea Hall next week at Great American Bash. Does Stephanie show up after? And if so, do we get Julia as well? I think you guys are going to start to see Stephanie and Julia slowly integrated into the show. I think Julia is set to take on Roxanne at whatever pay-per-view's coming up. What is it? No Mercy? Could be.
Well, no. I mean, No Mercy is on September 1st. I don't know that she's in by then, but I do wonder, you know, they're and this is the reason why they taped SmackDown ahead of time. They're in Japan, I think, this weekend, I think.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I guess they haven't announced anything yet, but I wonder if we'll get a Julia, if not a match, an appearance on one of those shows.
I hope so. I mean, I need a reason to watch NXT. You guys are saying it's banger shows, man, but I watched like 2 weeks ago when you guys told me to go watch. I think it was the main event was a tag team match with Joe Hendry and Trick Williams versus Ethan Page and whoever
Sean
else.
Spears.
Yeah, Sean Spears. I mean, I don't know what you guys were watching that show. I fell asleep. I don't know what was so great about the show. Guys are crazy, man. Justin Toner, thank you, brother. Dixie Normus with a 199. The feelings of Dibsy subdued or is a new TNA? Dibsy?
What?
I don't know what this is exactly how it reads. The feelings for Dibsy subdued or is a new TNA?
Did he mean Dixie?
That's what I think so. I don't know. Dixie Normus. I don't know, bro. Let's go look at Liv Morgan, bro. Everything will be all right. Triple M with a $2 super chat. No euphony, my bad. RNG again. Good show, goats. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't even play today. Rusty Wagner with a 33 months. We'll end with this. JD Solomonster, your partnership is great. Keep up the great work. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Rusty. I'm glad you enjoy it.
All right, guys. I got a cat to attend to, and Jason has sleep to attend to. Or I don't know what you do after these shows. Maybe have another drink, watch NXT, fall asleep.
Yeah, I'll go rewatch the Liv Morgan segment from last night.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you, man. How you want to close us out here on episode 58?
Well, I just wanted to mention this, kind of a sad story. Don't know if you saw that Johnny Gargano posted on his Twitter the other day that his father's restaurant in Cleveland, which they were expecting a lot of traffic for because SummerSlam is coming to Cleveland, and Gargano's Catering has been there for decades. It's a very popular, I think it's a pizzeria, but it's a very popular restaurant. Anyway, it burned down the other day. I don't know what the cause was, if they even know what the cause was yet of the fire, but his father put everything into that place. He's 82 years old. He's been working there for 50 years, and it's all gone. Thankfully, he wasn't there when the fire started. He was okay. I think one firefighter, in trying to put it out, suffered minor injuries, but hopefully they'll be able to rebuild. He didn't indicate if that's the plan. Again, his dad is 82, but a sad story, though, because that has been, I know, an institution there in that city for a very long time. And it's very sad, and hopefully they can rebuild bigger and better than it was before.
Thoughts and prayers to Johnny Gargano and his family, man. It's a terrible story. I did see that, and I hope everything gets back the way it used to be at some point, man. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you very much for a great show tonight. We will see you back next week for episode 59. It'll be our go-home show for SummerSlam. We'll give you SummerSlam breakdown, preview, predictions, go over it all. Make sure you guys follow us on social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channels. Links are down below. And please, guys, we are 60 away from 1,000 likes. I know we'll get there, but if you guys are in the chat and have not hit the thumbs up, greatly appreciated. Thank you for episode 58, guys. We'll see you right back next week for episode 59 right here on Tuesday Night Titans. We'll see you later.